French official claims two-state solution saved from moral danger ignores accountability. In the grand game of diplomacy, they've just rolled a moral dice and called it a win, while sidestepping the entire accountability board.
Scientists discover quantum echo in superconductors, still can't predict my Spotify playlist. While they unravel the mysteries of quantum echoes, the secrets of your weekend jams remain as elusive as ever in the realm of tech.
Netflix labels Guinness founder as secretly gay, risking their show's credibility. When a streaming giant starts rewriting history like a tabloid, you know they're desperate for more than just ratings. Who needs truth when you've got drama?
Ex-DOJ insider claims Jeffrey Epstein was a CIA spy, raising eyebrows and conspiracy theories alike. When your spy network reads like a who's who of the morally bankrupt, it's hard to tell intelligence from incompetence.
Reddit blocks Freedom Anthem flash mob, calls it community moderation. As the digital barricades rise, remember, nothing says freedom like a corporation deciding what you can sing about online.
Senate report finds DOJ operates unchecked at multiple agencies, recommending audits to protect Americans' data. When government watchdogs become lapdogs, privacy becomes a chew toy for bureaucracy's slobbering maw.
Red Sox secure postseason with Rafaela's triple, claim its destiny. Baseball's ultimate drama. A millionaire hits a ball, the stadium erupts, and somehow this means the city's dreams are fulfilled.
Trump warns the left not to provoke the right, claiming his supporters are tougher and that bad things happen. When the president sounds like a mob boss, democracy's on the ropes, left to dodge haymakers from the bully pulpit.
Ohio bans sugary drinks from SNAP benefits, claims it's for health. Because nothing screams public health like legislating what people can drink, right? Next, they'll dictate how many apples you can juggle for exercise.
AG Bondi gave White House aides minutes' notice before distributing Epstein binders, catching them with their pants down. When binders dropped like bombshells, the scramble reveals who forgot to pack their parachute or conscience.
Hurricane Humberto strengthens to Category 4, but promises to stay socially distant from the U.S. East Coast. Even hurricanes respect boundaries better than some politicians. Humberto's got the power without the power trip.
James Gunn teases Peacemaker twist, reveals G.I. Robot won't debut in the show. Hollywood's got more twists than a pretzel factory and just as much artificial flavor. Who needs robots when the plot's already on autopilot?
The Atlantic conflates Gaza left with gender left sparks confusion. When your political analysis sounds like a tangled headphone cord, maybe it's time to rethink your categories. Not every leftist is a one-size-fits-all ideology.
Boeing stock soars as 737 MAX restrictions ease, proving deregulation can be a real high flyer. Apparently, safety checks are just turbulence on the way to profit heaven. Who knew reckless abandon was the new flight plan?
White House Budget Office warns agencies, plans mass layoffs during looming shutdown. When the going gets tough, the government gets going, straight to the unemployment line. But don't worry, the stock market's got popcorn.
Who needs courtroom drama when you can stream your own redemption arc?
When your groundbreaking research sounds like a sci-fi subplot, maybe it's time to hire a PR specialist. Because if you can't explain it simply, no one cares about your cellular drama.
Finland predicts climate collapse and NATO's end by 2045, because who doesn't love a dystopian double feature? Forget popcorn futures, better stockpile sunscreen and survival kits. When the forecast is Armageddon, at least the weather is consistent.
The Justice Department indicts Comey, igniting a political bonfire of vanities. When indictments become the new cocktail conversation starter, you know the real crime is the circus in the courtroom past the popcorn. The show's just starting.
Neko Case releases new album at 55, and it's still not a love song, because who needs romance when you have raw truth? In a world of auto-tuned drivel, Case's voice is a lighthouse cutting through the fog of mediocrity.
CEOs adopt AI synergy to sound cutting edge, but it's just corporate speak for we're not sure what we're doing.
Chinese studio rewrites gay couple as straight using AI, calls it cultural localization. When AI becomes the new conversion therapy, we're left wondering if the real horror is on screen or behind the scenes. Love is love even in subtitles.
Microsoft processes data in over 100 countries, yet customers are kept in the dark. It's like a global game of hide and seek with your data, except the prize is your privacy, and Microsoft is the only one playing.
Asus slashes gaming laptop price to under $1,000, but it's last year's model.
Only 30% of teams automate alert triage, and tech giants call it a revolution. When your smart systems need a babysitter, it's like hiring a nanny for your Roomba.
DeepMind unveils AI to choreograph factory robots, claims it's artistry in motion. If robots start pirouetting through production lines, maybe they'll soon outdo us in the arts too. Who knew manufacturing needed a touch of Swan Lake?
Trump orders death penalty enforcement in D.C., reviving an archaic specter. Like a grim reaper with a pen, he's resurrecting policies from the past. Because nothing says progress like medieval justice.
Trump orders crackdown on domestic terrorism networks, targets left-leaning nonprofits. When your political playbook reads like a conspiracy thriller, it's clear your administration's grasp on reality is fictional at best.
Hong Kong bans homes under 8 square meters, labels them unfit for habitation. When even a closet-sized flat becomes too excessive.
AI and robotics promise faster discoveries, but scientists face ethical dilemmas.
Only 20% of new rap tracks break 1,000 streams, and Cantonese Strict calls it funky. In a world where algorithms decide your worth, it's not about the music, it's about the machine's mood swings.
Netanyahu uses archaeology to bolster political aims, claims it's cultural preservation. When digging up old stones becomes a tool for modern-day power plays, you know history is being rewritten with a backbone and a biased agenda.
Trump's DOJ indicts Comey, calls it justice, yet reeks of revenge. When justice starts resembling a mob boss's vendetta, the scales of democracy tip dangerously toward tyranny, and Lady Justice loses her blindfold.
North Korea stages military parade, claims it's a peace demonstration. When a parade of missiles is your idea of a peaceful gathering, you're either deluded or just really bad at reading the room.
IFA schedules PSG's Intercontinental Cup final in Qatar, solving football's biggest mystery, how to ignore human rights.
Nvidia and Intel plan new RTX chips promise AMD's demise. When two tech titans team up to topple a rival, it's either a blockbuster or a buddy comedy where the heroes trip over their own shoelaces.
Russian vessel Yantar gathers NATO cable data, raising sabotage fears. When a research vessel goes from Jacques Cousteau to James Bond villain, NATO's underwater secrets might just become Russia's next big party trick.
Scientists design proteins for cytokine control, but only if they master molecular choreography. In the world of protein design, it's all about making molecules dance to your tune, but beware. One wrong step, and it's a molecular mosh pit.
Bloomberg suggests the dollar might derail trends, but only after it's done derailing economies. Because when the dollar sneezes, the global market catches a cold, and investors reach for their crystal balls.
Trump signs $3 trillion budget bill, calls it big, beautiful. When your financial strategy resembles a reality TV show pitch, it's no surprise the real drama is left for the taxpayers to unfold.
When bullets become billboards for twisted manifestos, the performance art of terror reaches a chilling crescendo, leaving us questioning who the real audience is.
Kimmel's YouTube fame sends traditional broadcasters scrambling, but they still think cable TV is the future. Because nothing screams cutting edge like clinging to a sinking ship, while the internet sails by with a victory parade.
Indonesia's central bank intervenes boldly, yet rupiah continues to plummet. It's like trying to plug a leaky boat with optimism, while the waters of economic reality rush in, relentless as ever.
Australia's Climate Change Authority calls for an end to native forest logging to meet emissions targets, while loggers insist trees are just sleeping carbon.
Only 20% of rheumatoid arthritis cases are caught early, and researchers call it a breakthrough. When your body's timeline is more mysterious than a spy novel, you know science is just catching up to the plot twists.
Trump orders troop deployments to protect ICE facilities, then claims it's for national security, because nothing says land of the free like militarizing against the invisible hordes threatening our borders, aka hardworking families seeking asylum.
Only 30% of investors trust UK gilts, and RBC calls it a good entry point when your financial strategy sounds like a carnival barker's pitch. Maybe it's time to rethink the whole market fun house. Step right up, folks.
When bombs fall like rain, the forecast is always grim, and umbrellas of diplomacy are nowhere to be found.
Robert Saleh accuses Jaguars of legal signal stealing, then realizes cheating is just another play in the NFL playbook. In a league where billion-dollar franchises cry foul over strategic creativity, maybe the real game is figuring out who can out-complain the other. Touchdown, irony.
House Republicans ditch legislative duties and blame government for looming shutdown. In the grand circus of American politics, it's always easier to point fingers from a beach chair than a congressional seat. Welcome to the blame game, now with extra suntan lotion.
British court dismisses terror charge against Nikak Liam of Aned, citing insufficient evidence for a third time. When the law dances to its own tune, sometimes justice is the one left without a partner.
European banks plan euro stablecoin by 2026. When the euro and the dollar arm wrestle.
When a financial giant's progress is measured in hypotheticals, you know the safety net's more like a safety sieve.
Arsenal scores 2 late goals against Newcastle, edging closer to Premier League leader Liverpool's top spot. When Arsenal pulls a Houdini in the last minutes, it's another reminder that football is just theatre for the masses. Only the ticket prices are real.
Trump fires prosecutor reminding agents to follow law, then claims it's about protecting national security. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, obeying the law is apparently a fireable offense, unless you're the one breaking it.
Democrats adopt swearing and angry comebacks, hoping to outshout Trump's tweets. Trading policy for profanity. The party's new strategy banks on volume over vision. Who knew the road to the White House was paved with expletives?
BP transfers £1.6 billion in pension risks to LNG, avoiding future accountability. When corporations treat retirements like hot potatoes, pensions become just another game of pass the bucket roulette.
Trump promotes unproven medical claims about Tylenol and vaccines, ignoring scientific consensus. In a world where facts are optional, the president's latest health tips could lead to Tylenol becoming the new snake oil.
Trump considers forcing drug makers to match European prices, but Big Pharma's lobbyists are already sharpening their knives. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, the president's budget-conscious turn could be the start of a pharmaceutical telenovela.
When friends start spying on friends, who needs enemies? It's like a bad soap opera with drones instead of drama queens.
Kissinger claims Comey indictment is Trump intimidation, as if the scriptwriters ran out of plot twists. In this political drama, it seems the only thing being served is a cold dish of revenge with a side of déjà vu.
AI forecasts future health like weather, but still can't predict your doctor running late. This tech marvel might diagnose 1,000 diseases, yet it can't solve the eternal mystery of why your appointment is always delayed.
Wall Street's dance with data is like a bad soap opera, full of drama, but ultimately predictable and never the happy ending we want.
Music industry releases Lines M and VR, promises innovation but delivers recycled beats. Another day, another sound-alike track. If innovation means reusing the same old riffs, then call me the next Beethoven.
Accenture plans to exit staff who can't adapt to AI, calling it progress. In the corporate Hunger Games, if you can't code, you're the first tribute, adapt, or vanish. It's the new corporate mantra dressed in a tailored suit.
Canva's free plan limits features, but premium costs €12 monthly. It's like a buffet where the free section only serves breadsticks while the gourmet spread hides behind a velvet rope demanding your credit card.
European Central Bank advises monitoring rising food costs, then serves a feast of interest rate hikes. It's like telling the chef to watch the boiling pot while throwing more logs on the fire. The recipe for a bubbling inflation stew.
South Korea negotiates U.S. tariff deal, hoping for fairness but bracing for another American handshake with fingers crossed. When it comes to trade, the U.S. plays poker with a deck full of jokers, leaving allies to wonder if they're in the game or the punchline.
Trump slaps 100% tariffs on imported pharmaceuticals, then blames Democrats for economic woes. It's like setting the house on fire and then accusing the neighbors of smoking. Just another day in the political arsonist's playbook.
Police officer pepper sprays fan at turnstile concert, then claims crowd control. When the mosh pit's too hardcore even for the fuzz, it's clear the only thing out of control is the badge.
Suspect arrested in North Carolina bar shooting. Authorities call it an isolated incident.
Trump's rhetoric risks derailing prosecutions but blames the justice system. When the defendant's words become the prosecutor's hurdle, it's less about justice and more about the circus of semantics. Florida enacts tougher rules for non-citizen truckers, ignoring systemic safety issues.
Saudi FM condemns Israel, urges action, while still buying billions in arms from the West. Condemning with one tongue and cashing in with the other, it's diplomacy's version of a double-edged sword.
Eric Adams exits NYC mayoral race, citing insurmountable poll numbers. When your campaign crashes harder than a Brooklyn pothole, maybe it's time to let someone else handle the wheel.
ICE detains children without clean water, then claims it's all for security. When keeping kids safe means depriving them of basic human rights, maybe it's time to redefine security.
Trump administration deploys 200 Oregon National Guard troops to Portland and claims it's a peacekeeping mission. When your idea of peace means sending troops to a city that didn't ask for them, Orwell is probably rolling in his grave.
When your defense is trashing your former band's skills, maybe it's time to practice some introspection. Or just practice.
Italian coalition parties clash over €5 billion bank windfall tax plan, call it a fiscal tug-of-war. When the rich fight over how to tax the richer, it's like watching a soap opera where the plot is just too predictable.
YouTube bans MMFF's anti-war anthem, claims it promotes dangerous ideas. When a rock song scares the platform more than actual conflicts, maybe the real danger is in the mirror.
Israel escalates bombing and ground invasion of Gaza. 30 reported dead, calls it self-defense. When self-defense leaves 30 bodies in its wake, it's either a strategy manual for chaos or an audition for the world's worst PR campaign.
When truth gets shackled by the tyranny of clicks, you know we're all prisoners in the algorithm's dungeon.
Trump issues shutdown warning federal employees could lose jobs, blames Congress. When job security is a pawn in the political chess game, every move feels like a checkmate in a punchline-free comedy.
ICE agents detain Des Moines superintendent as if education isn't already under siege. When your biggest threat isn't failing test scores but an immigration raid, you know the system's truly lost its way.
Only 30% of grandparents respect parenting boundaries, and they call it family tradition. When the family tree's roots are tangled in old habits, it's no wonder the branches keep crossing the line.
India's festive gold demand set to decline as record prices make tradition unaffordable. When your cultural celebrations are priced out by the market, it's clear capitalism's gold standard is just fool's gold.
Andrew Garfield praises Ayo Edebiri's viral interview, then calls it just a human moment. When celebrities start labeling humanity like it's a rare bird sighting, you know, authenticity's been replaced by PR gloss.
Sydney court grants Lan
Yang more time, after adding a fifth charge for Rolls-Royce crash. When your car's worth more than some houses, you'd think it might come with a feature to avoid legal entanglements.
Atletico Madrid thrashes Real Madrid 5-2, and Alvarez scores twice. When your rivals run riot on your home turf, it's time to consider if your defense is playing football or just playing pretend.
In a world on fire, a reminder to keep calm and carry on while the rich and reckless drive their Rolls Royces into the sunset of accountability.
Larry Ellison pledges to give away 95% of his $393 billion fortune, but leadership changes raise eyebrows. When billionaires play hide-and-seek with their wealth, philanthropy starts looking like a game of musical chairs with a vanishing jackpot.
Microsoft and Cloudflare dismantle Raccoon O3D65 phishing network, taking down 338 domains, but the emails just keep coming. It's like swatting mosquitoes when you're already in the swamp, and the tech giants are selling you the fly swatter while they own the swamp.
If only aging were as simple as clicking refresh on your browser.
Universities demand students address AI and mental health, yet charge tuition like it's the 1960s. With prices looming like a bad secret, institutions expect students to save the world while drowning them in debt, calling it education.
Trump revels in Comey indictment, then tweets a victory lap in all caps. In the theater of political revenge, nothing says justice like a courtroom drama starring your favorite former adversary. Grab your popcorn, folks.
In a world where love's supposedly priceless, leaving costs more than the cake you didn't even like.
Only 20% of LGBTQ+ stories get mainstream attention, and media calls it representation.
Study finds Gaza civilian injuries match war-zone soldiers, but peace talks remain just a rumor. When your neighborhood resembles a battlefield, yet the world still calls it a complex situation, it's clear diplomacy took a long holiday.
Tennis federations slow courts to nurture monotony, then bemoan the lack of artistry. Modern tennis, where risk-taking is as rare as a Wimbledon grass stain. Swing away, but don't dare hit anything but dull.
Trump signs order for TikTok deal with algorithm control, but free speech wasn't invited to the party. When the algorithm knows you better than your best friend, it's not just your dance moves they're controlling, it's your digital soul.
Trump administration botches investor visa homework, then expects A+ in global competitiveness. Turns out, $1 million gold card doesn't alchemize into jobs or innovation. Just another expensive piece of fool's gold.
Hungarian jets intercept Russian warplanes, then NATO calls it routine Baltic air policing. When your neighborhood watch involves fighter jets, you know the routine has gone full Cold War cosplay.
Trump slaps import taxes on drugs, cabinets, furniture, and trucks, but leaves tax-free loopholes for chaos and confusion.
Looks like your new prescription will come with a side of sticker shock, while your kitchen cabinets will cost more than your kitchen sink.
European banks risk falling behind US on stablecoins, then blame digital sovereignty crisis. When you're late to the crypto party, don't be surprised if you find your sovereignty
Only 30% of Americans feel safe speaking freely, and Trump calls it fake news. When your words are more likely to be censored than your grandmother's Facebook posts, you know democracy's taken a wrong turn down censorship lane.
Trump plans 100% tariff on brand drugs, then offers a loophole for US manufacturing. Looks like Big Pharma's about to get a crash course in Made in America, unless they want their pills priced like gold.
Eric Kids finished 62 city tour claimed they're just getting started. When your humble is as well rehearsed as your choreography, maybe it's time to admit you're not just another garage band.
Vietnam shuts down airports as Typhoon Buoloi forces evacuation of 250,000 people. When nature throws a tantrum, even 100,000 soldiers can only play catch-up against the fury of wind and water.
Simpsons exec hints at 800th episode, insists politics aren't their mission despite 34 years of satire. When the longest running sitcom claims it's not about politics, it's like Homer saying donuts aren't his thing. Sweet denial never tasted so absurd.
The US Supreme Court allows Trump to withhold $5 billion in foreign aid, calling it a victory for presidential power. Apparently, the greatest power a president can wield is the ability to hoard cash like a dragon guarding a pile of gold, while the world burns outside the cave.
NVIDIA invests $5 billion in Intel, shaking Silicon Valley more than its $100 billion OpenAI deal. In a world where numbers dance like drunken billionaires, it's the smaller strategic tango that makes the tech titans tremble, proving that sometimes less is more, especially in a land where egos are as inflated as stock prices.
Optus investigates another 000 outage, while Labour's first deficit isn't as catastrophic as expected. In the land down under, you might not reach emergency services, but hey, at least the budget hole isn't as deep as the outback.
HSBC claims quantum trading breakthrough as quantum computing stocks heat up retail investor fantasies. In the stock market's latest game of guess which tech will save us, quantum computing is the new darling, because nothing screams stable investment like Schrodinger's cat trying to pick stocks.
India enforces curfew in Ladakh after statehood protests escalate into violence. When your cries for autonomy are met with lockdowns and loss, it seems the only independence you gain is from peace itself.
China drops WTO developing country status, but US tariffs still bite. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, China sheds its developing label faster than a reality star sheds dignity, yet still faces the harsh spotlight of US tariffs.
Optus experiences another 000 outage in New South Wales following a recent one tied to 4 deaths. When your emergency lines are as reliable as a politician's promises, perhaps it's time to call in a different kind of rescue.
Only 10% of women's cycles align with the moon, and the universe shrugs.
Turns out, the moon's gravitational pull is like your ex's texts. Once meaningful, now just a faint echo when it peaks in January.
Turkey hits 13 poultry producers with an $89 million antitrust fine, claiming they clucked too much about competition. When your chicken conspiracy gets busted by the antitrust board, you know the pecking order just got scrambled.
When a crowd this size gathers, it's less a debate and more a roar, where nuance is trampled under righteous sneakers pounding the pavement.
Hey, RC declares new toilet rolls for businesses, but forgets to include a plunger for the ensuing chaos. When bog standard bureaucracy meets the porcelain throne, it's no wonder businesses are left swirling in a flush of confusion and indignation.
Apple demands EU scrap tech rules causing delays, but still can't speed up their latest iOS update. When the world's richest tech company blames bureaucracy for its own glitches, it's like blaming your shoes for tripping over your own feet.
Bryant Riley vows to overcome years of turmoil with a turnaround plan, yet B. Riley Financial Inc. remains wobbly at best. When your financial foundation is made of Jenga blocks, every move feels like a game of chance.
When tunes echo past hits, it's a remix of Deja Vu, where the only thing original is the artist's optimism.
Tony Harrison leaves earthly stage at 88, but his words echo louder than a stadium full of rock gods. The man who could weave tenderness and rage into verse has left us, reminding us that poetry is the original megaphone for the soul.
Sandro Diaz conquers a 70-meter drop, shattering 2 records for tallest drop-in and fastest ramp speed, but gravity remains unimpressed.
Reddit rendezvous turns violent after man declines payment for sex, proving once again that the internet's a wild west of unmet expectations. This sordid tale of digital meet-cutes gone wrong reminds us that Reddit is more like a roulette wheel than a dating app.
Only 50% of gamers recognize their childhood consoles, while nostalgia industries call it a goldmine. Gaming has evolved from pixelated adventures to a billion-dollar nostalgia trip, where your childhood is downloadable content.
Only 12% of people know Amboi's song meanings, while the rest of us are left to decipher mystical lyrics like an ancient treasure map. In the end, decoding song lyrics is like trying to read tea leaves in a hurricane, fascinating, chaotic, and ultimately still just wet leaves.
Trump slashes federal workforce then calls it streamlining. As the government hemorrhages talent, it seems the only growth is in the unemployment line. Who knew job cuts were the new job creation?
Netanyahu demands Israel finish the job in Gaza, while delegates stage a mass walkout at the UN. When your audience exits stage left, maybe it's time to question if the script's a little too blood-soaked and not enough peace talk.
Israeli PM Netanyahu bombs Gaza neighborhood, then addresses United Nations on peace. It's a classic case of diplomacy by day, destruction by night, where the art of war meets the art of the spin, leaving humanity buried in the rubble.
Italian province proposes dog tourist tax, calls it cleanliness. Welcome to the future, where even Fido can't escape the taxman. It's a dog's life, now with added bureaucracy.
Apple's macOS malware targets Firefox users, but innovation is just a new way to say gotcha. It's the tech version of a cat and mouse game, where every update promises safety, but hackers always seem to have a bigger, sharper claw.
IDF ordered to broadcast Netanyahu's UN speech in Gaza, calls it diplomacy. Because nothing says winning hearts and minds like forcing folks to listen to a speech they didn't ask for. Propaganda just got a new playlist.
Chinese exports spike as Beijing bypasses US tariffs, rerouting goods to the EU and ASEAN. Who needs a trade war when you can just change the map and pretend the tariffs are just speed bumps on the road to global domination?
Indian court dismisses Elon Musk's X case, calls it free speech. When a billionaire's platform fights for speech but gets gagged by the very system it challenges, irony just hit a new high note.
Israeli soldiers reportedly treat Gaza civilians as military opponents, redefining collateral damage as a strategy. When every civilian becomes a combatant, the line between defense and aggression blurs, leaving human rights as the first casualty of war.
Qualcomm unveils next-gen Snapdragon platform, promises revolution. Tech giants love to promise the future while conveniently forgetting the present is still buffering. At least this revolution won't need a software update.
NATO intensifies Baltic Sea surveillance after drones breach military bases, citing security concerns. When the skies look like a sci-fi convention, it's time for NATO to admit that its new air defense strategy might just be a really expensive game of whack-a-drone.
Lola Young cancels gig, citing mental health concerns, but the industry keeps scheduling breakdowns. Mental health is the new backstage pass, while the music industry dances to the tune of relentless pressure and zero compassion.
Netanyahu dismisses UN's genocide findings, insists war on Gaza continues despite global outrage. When facts clash with narratives, it's remarkable how some leaders can pivot from international law to selective amnesia, leaving the truth buried under a mountain of rhetoric.
Russia declares NATO and EU at war with Moscow, while their diplomats sip cocktails at international summits. It's a chilling escalation, like a bad reality show, where the stakes are nuclear and the script is written by a toddler with a grudge.
Jimmy Kimmel reveals dislike for Trump, cites his disdain for authoritarianism and divisive antics. When comedians become the moral compass, it's a clear sign that the political landscape has veered so far off course that satire starts sounding like statecraft.
Medical examiner reveals Shane Tamura, NFL HQ shooter, at CTE, sparking debate on football safety. When the gridiron gladiators' brains are ticking time bombs, maybe it's time the NFL traded helmets for halos, or at least a conscience.
The New Yorker ponders moving images on covers, while readers wonder if they'll have to pay more for the privilege of a GIF. It's like buying a Picasso and finding out it moonlights as a TikTok influencer, contemporary art with a side of existential dread.
Republicans redraw district lines favoring themselves, leaving Democrats with a map resembling a Rorschach test. When democracy looks like a psychological inkblot, it's no wonder voters are left questioning if their choices are an illusion wrapped in a gerrymandered nightmare.
Bond investors grant France a temporary reprieve, but it's like offering a lifeboat to a captain on a sinking ship. With France's finances in a tailspin, these investors are like over-optimistic parents at a failing school play, hoping somehow this time it ends in applause.
MSCI CEO claims AI boom mirrors past Francis, but Wall Street's memory lasts as long as a TikTok trend. When corporate leaders compare AI to railroads, it's a nostalgia trip that forgets the train wrecks and dot-com implosions. History repeats, but the hype stays the same.
Only 30% of Moldovans believe tomorrow's election matters, while politicians call it pivotal. When your future's a coin flip and the leaders are the ones with butterfingers, maybe existentialism is the least of your worries.
Polish Pie's party demands Antifa be labeled terrorists, ignoring their own nationalist skeletons in the closet.
DeepSeek mandates peer review for AI innovations, claiming transparency, while tech titans prefer the smoke and mirrors approach. In an industry where secrets are guarded tighter than a billionaire's wallet, DeepSeek's move is like opening a window in a room full of fog machines.
Eric Adams exits New York mayoral race, leaving Cuomo to haunt the city's political stage once more. The Big Apple's mayoral race just turned into a rerun of a horror show, starring Andrew Cuomo, the comeback kid no one asked for.
Democratic leaders urge to resist shutdown threats, while Republicans sharpen budget axes for the ritual dance of brinkmanship. In Washington's eternal game of chicken, everyone's revving engines, but only the public gets run over.
Former FBI Director James Comey indicted, yet shutdown looms larger. While their political circus rolls, it's hard to tell if Comey's the main act or just a sideshow distraction.
Scientists claim daily habits ward off dementia, but only if you ignore the existential dread of living in 2025. Turns out, the secret to brain health is less about kale smoothies and more about pretending the future isn't just one big dumpster fire.
House receives Epstein estate records, promises transparency in the murk of power and privilege. New revelations may shed light on dark corners, but don't expect the powerful to squirm under the spotlight.
Stronger US data hits emerging markets, curbing risk appetite. The Fed plays the tease, dangling rate cuts like candy, while emerging markets are left with the bitter taste of dashed hopes.
U.S. Ambassador to Canada defends Trump's ignorance, claims it's strategic, then doubles down on the art of the unlearned deal. In the political theater of the absurd, ignorance isn't just bliss, it's a diplomatic strategy.
German firm VW offers remote-driven rentals, claims it's the end of private car ownership. While they promise a future free of car keys, let's hope the remote drivers have more humanity than your average chatbot on wheels.
Trump promises tariff cash for farmers, but forgets tariffs are a consumer tax, not a magic money tree. In the land of make-believe economics, where tariffs grow on trees, farmers might just harvest the fruits of fiction.
Kenyan starvation cult fills morgues. Leaders claim spiritual enlightenment. In a grim twist of faith, these cult leaders seem to believe that salvation is best achieved through mass hunger games.
Federal agents storm 3 cities, declared a mission of peace, and leave locals wondering if Orwell wrote the playbook. When keeping the peace looks more like an action movie than a community picnic, you know someone's reading the wrong script.
Scientists unveil weight loss pill promises 20% body weight loss. Or Oricron sounds like a spell from a diet wizard, conjuring slim figures while leaving us to question the true magic behind the curtain.
Credit Weekly warns of financial deja vu. Echoes of 2007 grow louder. It's like Wall Street's greatest hits, the remix nobody wanted, but the banks are still dancing to the beat of impending doom.
Supreme Court hears plea from ex-Fed chairs, yet Lisa Cook's job security hangs on a judicial thread thinner than a dollar bill.
Slate's advice column reveals a parenting clash as Carl teaches 4-year-old Justin to spit on the sidewalk.
When your brain's a football field of trauma, the game of life becomes a losing match. No touchdowns, just tragic endings.
U.S. stock futures climb as OPEC plus oil prices drop. Like a financial seesaw, where Wall Street's gains are weighted down by the slippery promise of cheap oil, it's a game of who blinks first.
Democrats release Epstein records, naming Musk, Bannon, Thiel, Prince Andrew, but secrets don't whisper, they scream. When the guest list reads like a billionaire's masquerade ball, the masks are always more sinister than the party favors.
Meta launches ad-free subscriptions in the UK, claiming choice while selling the same old privacy invasion. Pay up to avoid ads or keep your data on the buffet line for advertisers. It's like being charged extra to escape a digital panopticon, where the only escape costs more than your dignity.
Salesforce hit with 14 lawsuits in rapid succession, proving tech giants love drama almost as much as they love data. When your legal team starts resembling an assembly line, maybe it's time to upgrade your ethics, not just your software.
Police end church shooting in 8 minutes, but the gunman still fired. In a country where thoughts and prayers are the standard issue, maybe it's time we arm ourselves with something more effective than empty words.
Pro-EU party leads Moldovan election, despite Russian interference claims casting shadows on democracy's toddler steps. It's a classic tale of David versus Goliath, with democracy as the underdog toddler trying to take its first steps while Russia plays the role of the overbearing giant, making sure those steps are more of a stumble.
Anti-immigration uproar forces Yuan to end Africa exchange plan because who needs cultural understanding when you have fear-mongering? Turns out, it's easier to build walls of ignorance than bridges of empathy. The only thing massier is the hysteria.
UBC launches world's first mushroom-powered waterless toilet, solves humanity's burning question, can fungi handle our crap? Finally, a throne fit for a mycologist, who knew the future of sanitation would come with a side of portobello.
Clarence Thomas dismisses precedent's role in Supreme Court cases, ensuring legal stability feels as reliable as a house of cards in a hurricane. When the highest court's decisions are crafted like abstract art, you can bet justice will be as subjective as a Rorschach test in a funhouse mirror.
Pop star D4 beats Fred speak after Celeste Rivas found dead in his car, but stay silent on PDA. In the world of celebrity romance, it seems the only thing more troubling than a toxic relationship is the media's obsession with
it. United Utilities underspent £52 million on Vital Windermere work, then called it efficient budgeting. When it rains, it pours. Untreated sewage into your favorite lake. Maybe streamlining means something different in their boardroom.
Santander plans to offload 40 billion euros in credit risk by 2026, like a gambler ditching hot dice for safer bets. When banks unload risk faster than a cat on a hot tin roof, you can bet they're hedging against a future they helped make uncertain.
NATO drafts new security paradigms post-Ukraine war, then insists it's revolutionary. When your revolution looks a lot like the Cold War with Wi-Fi, maybe it's time to update more than your acronyms.
Judge declares Mike Lindell defames Smartmatic with false claims, proving that even pillows can't cushion a fall from grace. When your conspiracy theories get fluff like a bad hotel pillow, maybe it's time to stop dreaming of lawsuits and start counting sheep instead.
Netanyahu's UN speech sparks global walkouts, yet he broadcasts it into Gaza. When your rhetoric's so hot it needs a fire extinguisher, maybe it's time to douse the flames and try diplomacy instead.
Colts Weird Mitchell fumbles before crossing goal line, earns a touchback instead of glory. In the grand theater of sports, nothing says oopses like dropping the ball at the 1-yard line, proving once again that even professionals can be their own worst opponents.
Only 20% of seniors engage in resistance training, and scientists call it progress. When lifting a 2-pound dumbbell becomes a revolutionary act, you know the bar for senior fitness is lower than a limbo contest.
US government claims consumers power economy, yet wages stagnate while CEOs pocket millions. The economy's new engine is apparently fueled by your paycheck, while corporate jets run on the fumes of your dreams.
NATO deploys extra air assets to Baltic as drone swarms buzz Europe's defenses like mechanical mosquitoes on a mission. When your dinner party gets crashed by a swarm of uninvited guests, you call in the cavalry. NATO's invitation, RSVP now or never.
EU chief condemns Russian aggression, claiming it threatens every nation. When your toughest sanctions are like trying to stop a tank with a feather, maybe it's time to upgrade from diplomacy to reality.
In a twist of crustacean fate, this lucky lobster escapes butterbath, proving that not all rare finds belong on a plate.
Apple demands EU scrap landmark digital competition law, claiming it causes security risks and worsens consumer experience, yet profits remain untouched. When a trillion-dollar titan whines about consumer experience, it's like a fox complaining the henhouse door is too secure.
University of Illinois study finds alcohol traps liver cells in limbo even after you quit. Turns out, your liver holds grudges like an ex with a photographic memory. Refusing to forgive those years you spent marinating it in Merlot.
Google patches Chrome 0 day, then AI hacking tools and NPM worms throw a digital rave in your system.
European countries discuss drone wall today to counter threats, while drones continue flying uninvited over Denmark and beyond. If walls worked, we'd all be living in castles, not scrambling for a high-tech moat against the invisible sky invaders.
Pitland Collins shuts down Ice Barbie during a live class, proving that plastic personas melt under real pressure. When a new stained crust glass can melt a Barbie, it's clear that no amount of manufactured charm can withstand the heat of truth.
Baseball team clinches playoff spot with walk-off hit by pitch, proving that even victory can be a painful surprise. In the annals of sports, nothing says historic turnaround like winning by getting beaned, because what's a little bruise when glory's on the line? Hamas claims Palestinian state recognition stems from October 7th attacks, as if violence is the new diplomacy. When bombs become ballots, you know the world's leaders have truly run out of ideas, or just misplaced their moral compass in a war zone.
Only 49% of Americans approve of Democrats, and the party calls it a mandate. When your political strategy hinges on being slightly less disliked than the other guy, it's no wonder half the country rolls their eyes at your existence.
Kristi Noem fast-tracked millions in disaster aid to a Florida theme park after a campaign donor whispered sweet nothings. When disaster relief turns into a roller coaster ride, it's clear some politicians think public service means serving those who can pay for the ticket.
Hackers demand ransom for 8,000 children's photos, but Keto insists their security is top-notch. It's comforting to know that, in the age of digital parenting, the only thing more unstable than a toddler is the cybersecurity at their nursery.
Jerry Garcia performed his final Visions of Johanna in March '95, defying time with a haunting farewell just months before his death. Like a maestro bidding adieu, Garcia's last notes remind us that even legends can't outrun the clock, but they sure can make it pause and listen.
Russian warplanes buzz Alaska for 9th time this year, and the US military calls it routine. When Russian planes become more regular than your morning coffee, you know international relations are as frosty as an Alaskan winter.
Venezuela accuses U.S. of a moral military threat, then asks UN to intervene. When the world's playground bully swings its military might, it's no wonder countries feel like they're living under a constant game of dodgeball, with no referee in sight.
Only 30% of pop songs make sense, and Barnburner calls it artistry. When lyrics read like a ransom note from a sleep-deprived poet, it's either genius or the soundtrack to insomnia.
Only 30% of employees love free work food, and Slate's advice column calls it a dilemma. In a world where free office pizza is hailed as a perk, some folks still remember the taste of scarcity and prefer a side of dignity with their lunch.
U.S. Indit's financier Howard Rubin, and assistant for sex trafficking. When the money men trade in humanity, it's not just stocks that are taking a plunge, it's our collective dignity.
Israeli military targets Gaza, claiming 29 Palestinian lives, while Netanyahu faces ire at UN. When your defense strategy doubles as a demolition derby, expect the world to question your long-term peace plans.
Taliban releases U.S. citizen after 9-month detention, and the White House calls it a diplomatic victory. In the grand game of geopolitical chess, a life is freed while the world wonders if the next move will be checkmate or checkered promises.
Mariah Carey drops new track, Here for It All, and fans wonder if the diva can still hit those high notes. When your vocal range is legendary, but your relevance is a game of musical chairs, nostalgia might be the only thing keeping you on the playlist.
Federal court fines Antonio Rotondo $350,000 for deepfake porn, and the tech industry calls it innovation. When justice costs less than a new sports car, the real penalty is realizing the digital age doesn't come with a moral compass.
Tesla urges drowsy drivers to use full self-driving, then reminds them it's not actually self-driving. When your car's self-awareness rivals that of sleep-deprived drivers, it's time to question who's really in the driver's seat, humans or hype.
When a peace talk sounds like a monologue, maybe it's just a well-dressed echo bouncing off the walls of diplomacy.
Fake Labubu dolls account for 90% of counterfeit toys seized at UK border. And collectors are crying foul.
In a world where even your toys are imposters, the only thing more fragile than childhood dreams is the integrity of your plush collection.
Hip-hop artist Mudrat slams media's Gaza coverage during Triple J set, citing blood on these walls as the real headline. When the truth drops a beat, even the most polished propaganda can't drown out the sound of righteous rage.
Chancellor Merz declares Germany no longer lives in peace, while his defense budget grows faster than a teenager's shoe size. Guess when you're not living in peace, you've got to spend all your pocket money on tanks instead of textbooks. Priorities, right?
Professor Watchlist lands another academic, showing how fear and intimidation masquerade as accountability in the war against free thought. When the thought police come knocking, it's not to debate, it's to bully dissent into silence and call it a victory for education.
Microsoft patches critical Enter ID flaw, then pretends their admin impersonation issue wasn't a colossal oops. When your security fix comes with a side of oops, we did it again, it's time to question if your data's safer in a diary with a lock.
When diplomacy is a tee-off, and the only green he's thinking about is the one on the 18th hole. Who needs peace when you've got par?
Trump tariffs target pharma. Investors clutch pearls as stocks nosedive for 4 days despite Federal Reserve's mixed rate serenade. When your market strategy is a game of Jenga with a blindfold, don't be surprised when it all comes crashing down, courtesy of the tariff tantrum.
Saudi Arabia plans debt market expansion, calls it visionary growth. When an oil-rich kingdom borrows to build mega malls in the desert, you know the future's as clear as sand in a sandstorm.
Excess demands warrior ethos from generals, as if military strategies are best cooked up in a testosterone-fueled frat house.
When even your nana's pasta is suspect, it's clear the only thing fresh in tourism is the audacity to question tradition.
Israel launches 140 airstrikes in Gaza, while Trump promises a ceasefire is just around the corner. When your peace broker is a reality TV star, expect cliffhangers, not solutions.
Serial killer's daughter runs for office, promises clean politics. When your family legacy includes swastikas and chainsaws, maybe a career in politics isn't the redemption arc we needed.
Circle explores reversing stablecoin transactions, a nod to traditional finance's playbook of regret and do-overs. Crypto's revolution hits pause as it discovers the joys of buyer's remorse and the fine art of a financial control blissee.
For politicians, truth is like kryptonite, dangerous, potentially career-ending, and best kept under lock and key.
Only 40% of bands from the electroclash era remain relevant, and Late of the Pier calls it a comeback. Nostalgia's a hell of a drug, resurrecting beats that once made you dance like no one was watching, or maybe just no one cared.
Study finds left-wing terrorism hits 30-year high, overshadowing right-wing's daily reality show. When the scales of justice tip,
they do it with a sense of irony. Left or right, it's all a balancing act of extremism.
Trump signs order to let TikTok stay, enabling an American investor group to buy the app for national security. When TikTok's fate hangs on a billionaire's whimsy, your daily dance routine might just be a geopolitical chess move.
French unions announced nationwide strikes for October 2nd, and the government calls it a negotiation tactic. When even the Eiffel Tower might go on strike, you know the government's budget compromise is as stable as a souffle in an earthquake.
Space Ninja releases in 2025, promises TIE fights in zero gravity. In a universe where slapstick meets sci-fi, even the stars aren't safe from getting creamed.
NATO allies secretly tell Russia they're ready to down jets, and Moscow calls it a friendly chat. In the geopolitical game of truth or dare, Europe just opted for dare, leaving everyone wondering if Putin's next move involves a white flag or a chessboard.
Bouteflika moves to suspend Israel, citing fair play in a world where money usually scores the goals. Attempting to referee international politics with a red card, UEFA shows that sometimes soccer's not just a game, it's a geopolitical dance-off.
Only 6% of Americans think competition is fair, and Congress calls it a level playing field. In a country where monopolies are as American as apple pie, Congress seems to think they're just serving up a slice of life, minus the apples.
Raiders' Ashton Jeanty breaks free for 64-yard touchdown, while Chicago defense contemplates existential crisis. When a football player outruns your entire defense, maybe it's time to consider a new career, or at least a new playbook.
Mitt Romney's ghost haunts the GOP, while Trump makes him look like a bedtime story. In this political horror show, Mitt's imperfections seem like charming quirks compared to the current cast of characters starring in the Republican reality show.
Toxic waste touted as clean energy breakthrough, proving that in the energy world, even garbage gets a second chance before we do. Turning sludge into salvation. Researchers aim to make Mother Nature's dumpster fire the next green revolution.
Only 30% of millennials own homes, and Congress calls it progress. While the boomers cash out their golden tickets, the young are left holding the bill and a handful of avocado toast dreams.
Only 2% of tourists buy Barcelona skunk, and local officials call it an eco-friendly souvenir. Forget Gaudi, folks. Barcelona's hottest attraction is skunk-scented vacations. Who needs a postcard when you can bring home a whiff of urban wildlife?
Swiss voters approve EID and abolish rental tax, suggesting democracy is still alive somewhere.
EPA reports methane levels up 30%, labels it an unwelcome surprise. The planet's getting a makeover, and it's not from a makeover show, it's from a gas leak that even Mother Nature didn't ask for.
Public media silenced dissent under former Polish government now claims it was a miscommunication. When the truth is a whisper and the lies on a megaphone, it's no wonder the airwaves sound like a bad cover song.
Musk's XI promises Grok chatbot to federal agencies, claims it will revolutionize bureaucracy. Because what government workers really need is another bot telling them how to file paperwork. Maybe next it'll teach Congress how to pass a bill.
Australian Doctor Board's Gaza flotilla as acting PM Marles flaunts AFL pride confident in U.S. ties. When doctors sail for peace and politicians cheer for touchdowns, you know the world's priorities are as tangled as a ball of yarn in a kitten's paws.
Trump deploys troops to Portland, says they're protecting ICE facilities. Sending troops to guard ICE is like hiring bouncers for a haunted house. Just because you created the terror doesn't mean you need more muscle.
Brazil's central bank raises interest rates, calls it stability while inflation parties on. When your answer to economic chaos is to make borrowing unaffordable, it's like fighting a fire by banning water. Bold strategy, Brazil.
Tropical storm Imelda forms, promises hurricane-strength chaos by weekend. When your storm has a name and a bad attitude, it's like Mother Nature's sending a save-the-date for destruction. Buckle up, coastal dwellers.
Only 30% of retirees benefit from Roth conversions, and financial advisors call it strategic planning. When the tax-free future is sold as a maybe for only a few, it feels less like a smart move and more like a financial horoscope.
Nicolas Sarkozy sentenced to 5 years, but only 2 behind bars for Libya scandal. Sarkozy's doing less time for corruption than a shoplifter caught with a baguette in Paris. Justice in politics, where the punishment never quite fits the crime.
Trump expands executive powers, claims it's democracy, while checks and balances wave the white flag. When your ego is the only branch of government, it's not democracy. It's a one-man band playing the dictatorship blues.
U.S. government spent 46 years chasing Assata Shakur, and she dies peacefully in Cuba. The world's most expensive game of hide-and-seek ends not with a bang, but with the quiet defiance of a woman who outlived her pursuers.
Danish airports shut by professional actor, but drones remain unidentified. A mysterious thespian brings Danish airports to a halt with drone antics. Next up, a one-man show called Who Needs Air Traffic Control Anyway?
Because nothing says customer appreciation like a complex claim process for a $51 slice of a billion-dollar pie.
Federal Reserve considers cutting rates after prices rose 2.7%, like a firefighter debating marshmallows in a burning house. Inflation dances merrily while the Fed contemplates whether to play DJ or bouncer at the economic rave, with your wallet as the cover charge.
Netanyahu reroutes flight path over Europe, dodging imaginary handcuffs like their turbulence. When flying high means avoiding accountability, maybe it's time to check that moral compass before the next takeoff.
Russian drones strike Kyiv, killing 4, and peace talks remain the diplomatic charade.
It's like sending a Hallmark card to your neighbor while setting off fireworks in their living room. Love and War, Russian style.
Volvo unveils electric bus with gigantic battery pack, but the charging time rivals a geological era. It's the bus of the future, assuming you have the patience of a saint and a coffee shop nearby for those extended pit stops.
Ruby Gems locks down community input, then wonders why developers are fuming. When open source becomes a gated fortress, it's like a punk rock band selling out to play elevator music, keep the rebellion, lose the soul.
Only 33% of Syrian farms have irrigation, and climate change is about as merciful as a cat with a cornered mouse. When your crops depend on a fickle sky, hope becomes the most common and least nutritious harvest of the year.
French court hands Sarkozy 5 years, yet somehow corruption remains an Olympic sport for politicians. Texas town battles for water supply, drought turns taps into artifacts. When even the cacti are parched, maybe it's time to question those endless golf courses and oil rigs sucking the desert dry.
In the age of endless surveillance, you'd think they'd have more than just a name to go on. Bureaucracy, making the obvious obscure since forever.
Netanyahu calls football execs to halt Israel bans, while Trump throws in his own offside warning to FIFA's president. When the beautiful game turns into a geopolitical tug-of-war, you know the referees are just as lost as the fans.
Only 30% of live performances capture magic, and the rest are just sound checks in disguise. Towns Van Zandt, the poet of the downtrodden, once again proves that a Holiday Inn stage can be as legendary as the Grand Ole Opry if you squint hard enough and have a couple of drinks.
U.S. private prisons operator scores $790 million for 100 detainees on Nauru, and they call it a quiet expansion. When people cost more than luxury condos, you'd think they'd at least get a decent view. Instead, they're paying for isolation.
Trump lawyer reveals multi-million-dollar fees from Epstein, claims it was just business. Nothing says justice like profiting from the defense of a notorious sex offender while sipping champagne on a private jet.
Gabbard cancels intelligence report on future threats, then insists ignorance is strategic foresight. Tulsi Gabbard, in a move that screams head in the sand, decides it's better to face the future blindfolded, because who needs preparation when you have denial?
Iraq restarts Kurdish oil exports to Turkey after 2.5-year halt, breaking a deadlock with an interim deal. When oil flows smoother than diplomacy, you know the world's priorities are as slick as a greasy handshake.
Israel exploits Microsoft's Dutch data center for mass surveillance, then calls it a partnership for peace. When privacy becomes just another checkbox in the terms of service, you know we're living in a world where data-driven means driving over your rights with a digital steamroller.
International flotilla attempts to breach Gaza blockade. Israel labels it a threat to security.
When humanitarian aid becomes a threat, the real danger might just be the truth floating in on those waves.
Team Europe clinches Ryder Cup victory over Team USA in nail-biting finale, leaving American fans with empty fairways and full excuses. When Europe's golfers outplay the Stars and Stripes, it's a hole-in-one for irony and a double bogey for national pride.
Biden aides reconsider Israel's stance after Trump's pro-Israel approach, as if history is a game of musical chairs.
Eric Adams drops out of NYC mayoral race, calls it a strategic retreat for personal growth. In politics, personal growth often means stepping back to count your campaign cash and plot the next power move while the city keeps spinning without you.
YouTube offers LV's new track, For Me. Promises a lyrical deep dive, but first, cookies and consent. When streaming feels like signing a prenup, maybe the real love song is between your data and big tech's algorithms.
NATO boosts Baltic presence, prompting Poland to briefly close airspace because nothing says security like a sky-high game of peekaboo. When drones start playing hide-and-seek in your backyard, it's time to call in the big kids with the big toys, and maybe a few extra air traffic controllers.
Slay powers up mini crosswords with JavaScript, but only for those who navigate the digital maze. In a world where even puzzles require a browser upgrade, we're left wondering if the next Sudoku will demand a software patch and a blood oath.
Tech giants retrofit nuclear bunkers and mines as data centers, proving that digital security now needs Cold War chic.
Microsoft cuts ties with Israeli military citing mass surveillance of Palestinians, then claims commitment to ethical tech. When big tech plays the morality card, it's like a wolf donning sheep's wool, conveniently thin and easily shed when the net's perfectly cold.
Virginia fan flips off Castellanos, proving once again that sportsmanship is as rare as a gentle Twitter thread. When middle fingers become the universal language of sports, maybe it's time to draft some new rules of engagement, preferably ones with fewer single digits.
Another day in the land of the free, where thoughts and prayers are the only currency that never depreciates, no matter how many lives are spent.
Researchers unveil Cell-Fi, a CRISPR tool for boosting CAR T-cell therapies, but dysfunction still sabotages cancer treatments. In the race to beat cancer, it seems our best hope lies in hacking our own immune cells, like a rebellious teenager modding their smartphone.
Mr. Beast joins scam victims hunt for fraudsters after losing $1,025,000 and promises epic YouTube content. When life gives you lemons, make viral lemonade and hope the algorithm cares more about your loss than your bank does.
Atlantic storms churn towards land, or climate deniers stock up on umbrellas named coincidence.
When Mother Nature throws a tantrum, the real disaster is how many still insist it's just a seasonal mood swing.
Trump pivots on TikTok ban, promises American investors control, yet jokes about owning the app himself. In the circus of corporate musical chairs, Trump's idea of foreign policy is a haphazard game of Monopoly with real-world stakes.
Only 2% of keyboard enthusiasts obsess over stabilizers, yet claim it transforms typing into an art form. Turns out, the key to inner peace isn't meditation, it's a perfectly balanced spacebar. Who knew enlightenment came with a clicky-clack soundscape?
Sonic Republic release. In the digital age, if an album drops in the forest of Spotify and no one's curated playlist hears it, does it even make a sound?
Russian propagandists fabricate Ukraine-themed Lego sets, claim it's for a Moldovan election influence. Building blocks of democracy are apparently best manipulated with plastic bricks, and a side of misinformation. Who knew politics came with assembly instructions?
Trump demanded Jimmy Kimmel's cancellation, but instead boosted his ratings to a decade high. Looks like Trump's attempts at censorship are the best PR a late-night host could ask for. Who knew cancel culture came with a Nielsen bonus?
Fed's Miran urges swift rate cuts, then blames the economy for not reading the room. When the Fed's solution to economic whiplash is to demand a faster spend, you know we're all dizzy from the tanks. We got the chair.
Michigan church shooting leaves 4 dead, suspect ignites fire, claims divine guidance. When a twisted mind meets a loaded gun and a match, divine guidance becomes a hellish sermon. It's time to preach gun control before more tragedies get sanctified.
NRA defends gun rights after Michigan church shooting. When prayers turn to gunshots and the pews become a battlefield, the solution isn't more firepower, it's less hypocrisy.
U.S. revokes Colombia President Petro's visa. Petro shrugs it off. When your visa's denied and you respond with a presidential meh, it's either a diplomatic power move or a masterclass in nonchalance. Maybe Petro's passport just needed a siesta.
Chinese hackers infiltrate US law firms, claim it's just international networking. When espionage becomes a business strategy and hacking is rebranded as a networking opportunity, the only thing transparent is the audacity.
Because nothing says commitment to tranquility.
Apple releases liquid glass interface, calls it transparent, while users call it eye strain. When your interface is shinier than a disco ball, but less functional than a paperweight, maybe it's time to reflect on your design choices.
Jerry Bruckheimer teases new F1, Top Gun 3, and Pirates films, promises more explosions than plot. When you need a trilogy of sequels to remind audiences that originality was lost at sea with Captain Jack, it's time to abandon ship.
Howard Lutnick demands India open markets, then accuses New Delhi of harming America's fragile ego. When a billionaire lectures a billion people on market etiquette, it's like a bull in a china shop complaining about the mess.
DSM Firmenich reopens bidding to allow sites healthy competition. When corporate courtship becomes a soap opera, expect the plot twist to involve more numbers than emotions and less drama than a high school play.
Nepal's Sudan Gurung leads Gen Z protests, claims TikTok activism will overthrow legacy politics. When your revolution relies on viral dances and hashtags, it's not just the government that's outdated, it's the manual for change.
Trump embraces Erdogan at White House, then pledges commitment to democracy. When two strong men meet, democracy gets a back seat, while authoritarian bromance takes the wheel, steering us into the twilight zone.
Trump demands death penalty in D.C. Bondi announces nationwide expansion, proving compassion is just an optional extra in the American justice system. When your administration's idea of progress is reviving medieval penalties, it might be time to update your moral compass software.
Daily Caller publishes opinion column advocating violence, then claims it's just a metaphor. The classic, it's just a metaphor defense, because inciting chaos is so much more palatable when you wrap it in poetic license.
Ukraine's deep strike campaign cripples Russian logistics, worsening fuel crisis, while Moscow learns that running on fumes isn't just a metaphor. When your war machine stalls because you forgot to fill up, maybe it's time to rethink the invasion strategy.
US sues 6 states for voter rolls, calls it election integrity. When the government starts suing for information, you know transparency's taken a holiday and democracy's having a crisis of faith.
ICE raids Van Nuys car wash. 79-year-old U.S. citizen demands $50 million for civil rights violation. Grandpa's just trying to get his Buick washed, but ICE thinks he's part of an elaborate wax and buff cartel.
Only 30% of partners feel ignored due to phobing, and smartphones continue to be everyone's favorite third wheel. When your romantic rival is a pocket-sized screen, it might be time to swipe left on your relationship.
Mahar claims Democrats lack a platform beyond anti-Trump while irony smirks. If your political identity is just not that guy, you might need a new playbook and a mirror.
Tweezer array boasts 6,100 atomic qubits, yet still can't find your missing sock. Because when it comes to quantum computing, the universe is just showing off by juggling atoms like a cosmic circus act.
Russian cyber attacks recruit Cold River malware, as if Moscow needed more digital chaos in its playbook. When your cybersecurity strategy sounds like a bad action, maybe it's time to upgrade from Cold War tactics to actual cold hard logic.
Evan and Karchak prisoners protest suspicious death, while authorities insist it's just a tragic coincidence. In the world of prison accountability, suspicious seems to be the new normal, as if trust us ever meant anything without transparency and justice.
Moscow warns downing Russian planes means war, even if they violate airspace. When your diplomacy manual doubles as a threat catalog, maybe it's time to update the library with something less combustible.
Sakal Music Studio drops dark organ music, proving even keyboards can have an existential crisis. When your playlist sounds like a vampire's diary, maybe it's time to lighten up with some synth pop or risk summoning the undead.
South Park lampoons FCC chairman's meddling with Jimmy Kimmel, claiming satire is the best policy. When animated snark becomes the voice of reason, you know the world's gone sideways. Maybe the FCC should stick to frequencies and leave comedy to the experts.
Sandra Diaz shatters skateboarding world records at 50, proving age is just a number, especially when you're defying gravity. When your midlife crisis involves more air than a weather balloon, maybe it's time to rethink your idea of retirement.
President Trump sends federal agents to Memphis, calls it security, because nothing says we care about your community like a parade of badges and bureaucrats marching in to fix what they barely understand.
Dentist defends joke about giving anti-Trump patients less laughing gas. Maybe prefers silence over freedom of expression. When dental chairs become political platforms, you know it's time to floss out the hypocrisy. Who knew laughing gas had a partisan agenda?
BCCI threatens to file complaint against NACD for walking away with Asia Cup trophy, claiming it's a strong protest, not a heist. In a world where taking home a trophy doesn't mean you've won, cricket drama takes centre stage, proving it's not just the players who love theatrics.
Talent agents circle AI actress Tilly Norwood as studios quietly embrace tech that doesn't demand royalties or star in rehab dramas. In a world where an algorithm can outshine a diva, Who needs human tantrums when you can have perfectly coded compliance?
Nintendo of America retires Doug Bowser, credits him with more than just boss level expansions. From virtual mushrooms to theme parks, Bowser's reign proved even the villain can bring joy just as long as it's pixelated and profitable.
Days wins San Sebastian's Golden Shell, while audience prize goes to The Voice of Hindrajab, proving even film festivals love a good underdog story. When art triumphs over algorithms, it reminds us all that even in 2025, human creativity can still make a crowd stand up and cheer.
ICE detains Iowa school superintendent. No one knows why, but bureaucratic mysteries make the best thrillers. When educators become the plot twist in America's immigration saga, you know the scriptwriters have lost the plot and the plot's lost its mind.
Sinclair gets nothing it asks for, puts Jimmy Kimmel back on anyway, proving that even corporate giants can eat humble pie on prime time. When media moguls fold faster than a poker player with a bad hand, you know it's a ratings game with integrity as the lowest bidder.
Sweden's gangs recruit teenage girls for bomb making because apparently equal opportunity now includes criminal enterprises. When empowerment means detonators and dynamite, it's time to question who's writing the Equality Handbook and if they've read the fine print.
Doug Bowser steps down as Nintendo of America president, replaced by 19-year Nintendo loyalist Devon Pritchard, because sometimes even Bowser knows it's time to exit stage left. When your villainous namesake is more beloved than feared, it might be time to pass the joystick to someone who can level up the nostalgia.
Congo's mines minister dangles export quotas to miners, but only if they process cobalt locally. When your biggest export is leverage, the fine print's always in invisible ink, and the handshake comes with shackles.
Iranian diplomats banned from Costco shopping, proving even in diplomacy, bulk toilet paper can be a national security threat. When you're barred from the land of oversized cheese wheels and industrial-sized mayonnaise, you know diplomacy has truly hit rock bottom.
When justice becomes a political football, expect fumbles, fouls, and a referee with a blindfold.
Project 2025 authors join Trump administration because who better to rewrite reality than its original fiction writers? Staffing the White House with architects of future dystopias is like hiring Dracula for a blood drive, inevitable and hilariously on brand.
Harry Kane nets 100th goal for Bayern in his 1/4 game, proving even in Germany he's got more goals than bratwursts. When your scoring record reads like a FIFA cheat code, you know you're not just kicking balls, you're kicking legends into history.
Private credit firms flock to emerging markets, promising prosperity but leaving oversight in the dust. When billion-dollar bets land where regulations fear to tread, it's a game of high stakes and low accountability.
Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran steal the mic at Gomez Blanco wedding, but the real star was the open bar. When pop royalty crashes your wedding, expect heartfelt speeches, awkward dance moves, and a DJ with a playlist stuck in 2015.
China slashes metal's growth target, then calls it an efficiency breadfruit. When your economic strategy is the equivalent of a crash diet, expect more hunger pangs than healthy gains.
Putin claims strategic victory, yet Ukraine recaptures 3 towns, defying Russian propaganda. When your victory map is a game of musical chairs, maybe it's time to question who's orchestrating the tune.
Zelensky accuses Russia of launching drones from tankers, turning maritime trade into a war front. When tankers become Trojan horses, it seems the Kremlin's creativity is only matched by its audacity.
Blockchain promises revolution, but only 5% of the world uses it, and tech giants call it progress. Blockchain, the digital ledger that's as easy to understand as your grandmother's knitting patterns, if she knitted in hexadecimal and charged by the byte.
Russia and Hungary launched disinformation campaign labeled drone strikes as defensive acts. In a world where facts are as disposable as last season's fashion, war becomes just another marketing gimmick.
Stanley Tucci questions the youth obsession, while Hollywood still dresses 64-year-olds like they're auditioning for a boy band. Age gracefully, they say, but in Tinseltown, it's more like aging disgracefully, with a side of denial and a sprinkle of Botox.
Microsoft announces AI photo categorization, but it still can't tell your cat from a croissant. Like a nosy neighbor, Windows 11 now knows the difference between your vacation and your existential crisis.
Amazon's giant trees resist climate change better than thought, but they're still not immune to chainsaws. While the rainforest leafy titans suck up carbon like eco-vacuum cleaners, they're only as safe as the next logging permit.
ICE turns away migrants at Dallas appointments despite them showing up in fear. When your fear is met with a locked door, bureaucracy turns human lives into a cruel game of hide and seek.
India faces Pakistan in the Asia Cup final, hoping cricket diplomacy solves what decades of politics couldn't. When sports become the last hope for peace, it's a sign that the diplomats are out of their league.
Kremlin fumes as Norway boosts Ukraine aid by 10 billion euros, claims it's a hostile act. While Putin grumbles about hostile acts, Norway's just handing out life jackets to Ukraine's sinking ship.
Only 14% of aid organizations meet their promises, and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is surprisingly among them. When criticized groups outperform expectations, it's a reminder that sometimes the underdog wears the hero's cape.
Nothing like a classic tune to accompany the symphony of data mining, where your privacy becomes the real crescendo.
Chromo's confidence is like a late-night subway ride, dark, uncertain, and full of unexpected stops.
Goldman Sachs and PIM justify $200 billion credit surge while the rest of us are just trying to buy groceries. When Wall Street calls it a milestone, Main Street wonders if it's a millstone around their necks.
While Wall Street finds new ways to profit from homes, millions still dream of affording their first.
Police report 1 dead and 9 injured in a Michigan church shooting. Thoughts and prayers on standby. In America, even sacred spaces can't dodge the bullets, but hey, at least we're consistent in our inaction.
Congress members demand DOJ explain Tom Homan bribery case closure. But justice remains as elusive as ever. When politicians need answers, they write letters. When citizens need justice, they get silence.
Alex Warren releases Ordinary as chamber pop, yet the algorithm still decides what's extraordinary. In a world where clicks define worth, even the most original tunes are just notes in a digital playlist curated by code.
European officials brace as Trump prepares to blame them for Ukraine failure because deflection is cheaper than diplomacy. When in doubt, point fingers across the Atlantic and hope nobody notices the chaos in your own backyard.
Congressman Greg Casar urges Democrats to stand firm against shutdown, but history suggests they're experts in strategic retreat. When it comes to fighting, Democrats often bring a pillow to a knife fight and wonder why they get cut.
Moldova's upcoming election features 47 candidates, but only 4% of citizens believe any of them can actually deliver change. In Moldova, democracy often feels like speed dating with the same exes, lots of choices, but none you want to take home.
Denmark reports multiple drone sightings over its largest military base, and the drones aren't delivering pizza. When the skies are full of mystery machines, maybe it's time to question if your airspace is secure or just a public playground.
DOJ sues 6 states over voter data, claiming transparency while hiding their own secrets under lock and key. The Department of Justice demanding transparency is like a magician asking to see your cards while their own deck is rigged.
Indiana's AG vows to target irreverent citizens, prioritizing Charlie Kirk's corpse over living constituents. In a state where worshipping a political corpse trumps addressing actual issues, one wonders if the AG's next move involves sainthood or just sainthood-like immunity.
Starbucks to close underperforming stores, yet still charges $5 for a latte. When your answer to flagging sales is fewer places to sell, maybe your business model needs more than a shot of espresso.
Only 5% of listeners know Shibuya Kei, and Flipper's guitar calls it a revolution. It's like discovering a secret club where the password is a melody wrapped in neon and irony.
Des Moines school leader detained by immigration, and the school board claims it's just a misunderstanding. Seems like teaching the ABCs now includes navigating the bureaucratic alphabet soup of ICE.
With Greece's past debt crisis still echoing, the PM's enthusiasm for joint debt is like dancing on a financial fault line, hoping the rhythm won't crack.
East Timor MPs scrap lifetime pensions after protests expose their golden parachutes. When students shame you into action, maybe it's time to rethink who's really doing the governing in your democracy.
Doug Ford plans to ban speed cameras in Ontario, calls it a taxpayer cash grab. Because nothing says public safety like turning highways into the Wild West just to score points with suburban cowboys.
Israel kills 36 in Gaza since dawn, while a child dies of malnutrition in a hospital. When bombs and hunger compete for the highest body count, it's a grim race where humanity always loses.
South Korea says U.S. projects remain in limbo, waits for visa fix. Because who needs international collaboration when bureaucracy can keep innovation shackled like a dog on a too short leash?
Denmark bans drones before summits, while unidentified drones play hide-and-seek at military sites. Grounding drones to protect summits is like banning umbrellas to stop rain. It's a move that covers the surface but misses the storm.
ICE officer shocks woman to ground on video, gets release of duties, and a slap on the wrist. When law enforcement's unacceptable behavior gets them a paid vacation, it's clear accountability is just a performance piece.
UK buys 12 F-35A jets, risks nuclear treaty breach. Because nothing says peace and diplomacy like strapping a missile to a billion-dollar bird and calling it a security measure.
Russia detains 48 Ukrainian children in psychiatric hospitals for war opposition. When dissent becomes a diagnosis, tyranny prescribes a padded room and calls it treatment.
D4BD vacates Hollywood mansion tied to teen's Tesla death, leaves behind a trail of questions and luxury furniture. It's a classic Hollywood whodunit, mansion, mystery, and a musician who moonwalks away while the plot thickens.
Saudi plans to loosen foreign ownership limits, but only for the little guys. While the big banks get the spotlight, smaller companies get just enough attention to feel like the sidekick in their own financial thriller.
Only 0% of listeners stream No Stalling, and the artists call it a viral sensation. When your track needs a GPS to find an audience, maybe it's time to recalibrate the hype machine.
First Brands Group files bankruptcy with $50 billion in liabilities, and the CEO calls it a strategic pivot. When your company crashes harder than a demolition derby, maybe it's time to rethink what driving innovation really means.
Felix Salmon pitches AI-powered compute auctions, claiming necessity as tech giants hoard processing power like dragons with digital gold. When the cloud's the limit, who knew we'd need an auctioneer to keep AI from being just another rich kid's toy?
Redditor shares the English beat Save It for later, hoping nostalgia pays. Just like the song's catchy hooks, the comments section is a time capsule where Gen X and millennials unite over memories of mixtapes and questionable haircuts.
Only 20% of SpiderCat searches yield results and management calls it an enhancement. When your flagship search engine is as useful as a cat chasing its tail, maybe it's time to upgrade your algorithms or your priorities?
When justice demands an explanation, it's amazing how quickly rule of law sounds like a bedtime story for the power-napping elite.
Trump orders declassification of Amelia Earhart records, insists it's a top priority. Finally, the mystery of a 90-year-old disappearance will be solved while climate change, healthcare, and civil rights can wait their turn. Priorities.
Trump proposes relocating World Cup matches, citing safety concerns while ignoring gun violence in host cities. When the man who built a wall can't secure a stadium, you know the goalposts are as mobile as his moral compass.
Like a sugar rush in a library, it's too peppy to focus and too vague to drive, leaving listeners stranded in a synthy limbo.
Trump threatens to place 50% of America under military rule, calls it liberation. When domestic terrorists become anyone with a protest sign, freedom's just another word for not on my watch. Welcome to the land of the free, where the only thing free is the rhetoric.
Adams bows out, proving that even in politics, ghosts of past administrations are easier to resurrect than fresh ideas.
Mayor de Blasio promised computer science for all NYC students, but teachers are still waiting. English teachers contemplating coding face the ultimate plot twist, transforming literary devices into algorithms while surviving the digital age's relentless curriculum updates.
Netflix releases real-life Succession series, House of Guinness, featuring Victorian drama and debauchery, because history repeats itself as binge-worthy content.
Ukraine's drone wall defense results in 20-1 Russian casualty rate, dubbed techno-trench warfare. When the future looks like a sci-fi flick but with more shrapnel and less popcorn, you know the script's gone rogue. War Games just got an upgrade, and it's not the kind you can pause.
Oklahoma education chief quits to join group aiming to destroy teachers' unions, proving irony is alive and well. From molding young minds to dismantling their advocates, this career pivot is like swapping a chalkboard for a wrecking ball. Who knew education reform came with a demolition crew?
Live Nation CEO claims concert tickets are underpriced, because apparently selling your soul at a discount isn't enough. When a CEO says you're getting a bargain, check your wallet. They're probably selling you a front row seat to your own fleecing.
Obama slams Trump's gerrymandering push, goes viral, while democracy goes down in flames. In the age of algorithms, a former president's online outrage is the new congressional hearing. Who needs fair districts when you've got retweets and righteous indignation?
Wall Street crowns new AI stock group, while the old Magnificent Seven gets the boot like yesterday's fashion. When your financial future sounds like a sequel to a bad western, maybe it's time to rethink the script. Is it stocks or a boy band lineup?
Republican bill exempts certain medical care from being considered abortion, as if redefining reality could substitute for bodily autonomy. When politicians play God with definitions, it's a short leap from healthcare to heresy, and the witch trials are back in session.
Trump announces shutdown plans featuring mass layoffs, deregulation, and military deployments, citing freedom as the endgame.
When freedom translates to job losses and soldier parades, it's less about liberty and more about a one-man show. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof with a sledgehammer. Carnage guaranteed, repairs not so much.
Hungary tightens media control, calls press freedom a relic. When the media landscape looks more like a funhouse mirror, it's hard to tell if you're reading the news or a dystopian novel. Censorship chic never goes out of style.
Sound Exchange releases Undermined by Austin punk band, and it's a defiant scream against complacency priced at $0. When music is free, it's not just a gift, it's a revolution, sneaking past the gatekeepers with a guitar and a growl.
China pushes Arctic exploration. Canada readies military for icy stare-down. When the tundra turns into a geopolitical chessboard, it's a frosty reminder that even penguins might need diplomatic immunity. Polar bears take cover.
President drops King of Terror's EP, a metal punch to the gut, and the band remains as faceless as a ghost in a blackout. In a world where image is currency, President trades anonymity for pure, unfiltered sonic terror, reminding us that music's soul is faceless.
Greek PM considers banning social media for under 16s, citing safety concerns in the digital playground. Because nothing says protect the children quite like pretending the internet stops at the border of innocence. Welcome to the analog safe space, kids.
Would-be assassin of Gerald Ford, Sarah Jane Moore, dies at 95, reminding us that even failed plots get a long media shelf life. Turns out, you can miss your target and still live long enough to see the world forget who you were aiming at.
The Met stages Jacqueline de Ribau's exhibit, bringing 60 years of aristocratic flair to a world where fast fashion rules like a tyrant. As the ghost of haute couture past haunts the halls, we're reminded that elegance, unlike trends, never fades.
Trump's trials of political enemies face juror rebellion as legal theater meets real-world conscience. The jury box. Where democracy's last stand happens quietly, but with more impact than 1,000 tweets. Hold on to your gavels, folks.
Albanese and Starmer declare faith in voters essential, then cozy up in Downing Street while populists run amok on the streets. It's like holding a candlelight vigil for democracy while the wind howls through the cracks in their own promises.
President Trump confirms attendance at Defense Secretary's unusual meeting, where hundreds gather to strategize what exactly? When the Commander-in-Chief attends a meeting with more intrigue than an Agatha Christie novel, you know the plot thickens like yesterday's gravy.
Only 20% of TikTok's emotional tributes hit sincerity, and Jelly Roll's fans call it a movement. When a digital sob story becomes a hashtag, you know someone's got marketing down to an art form. It's like selling sadness by the slice, with a side of virality.
ExxonMobil doubles UK traders, claiming expansion while the planet burns. Doubling traders to cash in on a dwindling planet is like adding lifeboats to the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. Climate crisis. What crisis?
A virtual plea for peace met with the same old static, if only diplomacy was as easy as muting the opposition.
James Comey trusts Pat Fitzgerald to save him, but friends in high places don't guarantee a parachute when the plane's already burning. It's like clinging to a best friend during a trust fall, only to find out they were never told about the exercise in the first place.
Google confesses to censorship under Biden. YouTube embraces MAGA with open algorithms. When the tech giants play both sides of the political fence, it's like watching a seesaw where only the billionaires never hit the ground.
Trump renovates White House, adds gold trim to Situation Room because subtlety is for losers. When the world is on fire, why not redecorate with a touch of Versailles? Nothing says crisis management like a gilded panic button.
Peter Frampton Band releases instrumental cover, and without lyrics, it's the perfect soundtrack for pondering the futility of human endeavor. Imagine a world where even guitar solos can't drown out the sound of existential dread. It's the anthem of our times.
Ukrainian HIMARS reportedly hit Russian power plant, turning up the heat on energy politics. When diplomacy's a dumpster fire, why not add some rocket fuel? The power struggle just got a literal jolt.
Starbucks announces closing 100 stores, calls it a strategic transformation. Yes, the classic corporate strategy: fewer places to buy overpriced caffeine, more places to contemplate the meaninglessness of corporate jargon.
GitHub mandates two-factor authentication and short-lived tokens, promising to strengthen NPM supply chain security while hackers chuckle in the background. It's like locking the barn door after the hackers have already sold the horse on the dark web.
Gold prices hit record high at $3,800, while the dollar's value does its best impression of a sinking ship. Looks like investors are betting on gold for comfort, because nothing says secure future like shiny metal that can't buy groceries or pay rent.
Only 10% of companies encrypt AI data, and the industry calls it innovation. It's the kind of innovation that leaves the door open while patting itself on the back for installing a peephole.
Spanish authorities identify Russian citizen Lyudmila Zavada in cold case after 2 decades, proving that some mysteries age like fine wine, too long and mostly forgotten. After 20 years, it turns out the only thing colder than this case was the bureaucratic freeze it sat in. Here's hoping they find a defrost setting.
ICE transfers Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Pennsylvania and claims it's a move toward justice.
Croatian government plans to request passwords and access computers urgently, because who needs privacy when you can have state-sponsored snooping? Looks like Big Brother's got a new trick, peeking through your digital keyhole while we pretend it's not an invasion, just a friendly visit. Critics slam Trump's planned White House ballroom, calling it a grotesque tribute to excess. The new ballroom might be the only place where chandeliers and ego hang equally low.
Trump's HR chief plans to remake federal workforce, promising efficiency with a side of chaos.
Only 40% of indie artists find solace in sad playlists. Hey, sometimes the best therapy is crying into your coffee while a moody guitar strums your heartstrings. Because who needs happiness when you have art?
In this administration's version of Monopoly, it seems the only get-out-of-jail-free card is reserved for corporate tax breaks, not the folks keeping the lights on.
Switzerland plans extra taxes on electric vehicles, calls it eco-friendly. Charging more for going green is like taxing vegetables in a salad bar, because who wants a healthy planet without a side of fiscal punishment?
Denmark scrambles for drone defense, only to find its security net is full of holes and wishful thinking.
Trump urges pregnant women to avoid Tylenol, then blames mothers for health issues. Ah yes, the age-old tradition of blaming mothers for everything, now updated with a presidential endorsement. It's like telling a fish to swim without water.
Monsters on stage, monsters in your bank account. Who knew the real jam was squeezing every last cent from your wallet?
Trump deploys troops to Portland, claims it's for peace, but all we see is a new war zone in the making. Sending soldiers to silence the streets? That's like using a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito. Messy and overkill?
China launches campaign to keep killjoys off the internet, denies irony.
Researchers promise fault tolerance, then quantum computers stay unreliable. The dream of error-free qubits is like a Schrodinger's cat that never quite materializes, always both possible and impossible, but never practical.
When the law has to remind you that children aren't political pawns, maybe it's time to re-evaluate your moral compass.
Trump flips Comey indictment, then dodges own scandals. Like a magician with a taste for chaos, Trump pulls a legal rabbit out of Comey's hat, hoping no one notices the elephant in the room.
Rudy Giuliani and Dominion voting system.
Because nothing says unity like reliving a stage fight anthem, proving once again that music is the universal language of punchlines.
The market's big worry isn't stocks, it's that our future depends on machines with more brains than our politicians.
Moldovan parliament claims victory with 51% turnout, calls it democracy. Because nothing says power of the people, like half of them staying home, proving that silence might just be the loudest vote.
Trump administration mandates university commissars, calls it freedom. Because nothing screams academic liberty like a government-appointed watchdog ensuring your thoughts align with the latest presidential decree. Who knew Big Brother had a college tour planned?
JPM Morgan launches tech ETF in Taiwan, claiming Asian demand is the new gold rush. When the tech bubble bursts, investors will be left holding digital confetti while JPM Morgan counts its real-world profits.
Hungarian drones violate Ukraine's airspace. Zelensky demands answers from Budapest. When drones become the new pen pals, maybe it's time for Hungary to consider airmail with fewer international incidents.
Mingyang Smart Energy hires BSF exec, calls it a breeze. From chemicals to turbines, it's a whirlwind romance that screams. If you can't beat him, hire their boss. Who knew wind could be so corporate?
Netanyahu orders IDF to blast speech into Gaza, hoping loudspeakers will drown out dissent. When words become weapons, peace talks sound more like a rock concert where the amps are set to 11 and the audience is trapped.
YouTube's algorithm recommends Kispas, Can You Come Around, for your R&B fix, claiming it's the next big vibe. In a world where AI curates your love life, let's hope the playlist doesn't shuffle to heartbreak. Just swipe right to skip your feelings.
Amazon trees grow taller on carbon dioxide diet and climate change calls it progress.
Charlie Kirk's movement claims to grow post-assassination, while US politics fractures like a cheap ceramic mug. In the land of the free, martyrdom is just another business model. Keep your pitchforks and popcorn ready. The circus has only begun.
Trump administration asks Supreme Court to end birthright citizenship, seeks to redefine who belongs in their America, turning the Constitution into a choose-your-own-adventure book, where the ending changes depending on who's holding the pen and the power.
Scientists reveal dogs grasp toy mechanic son's training, proving once again they're smarter than your average CEO. Turns out dogs can discern functionality, no MBA required. Maybe we should let them run a few board meetings, they might fetch better results.
Trump slaps import taxes on drugs and furniture, labels it economic patriotism. When a cabinet costs more than your medication, you might wonder if the real prescription is for a dose of common sense.
It's like finding a hidden oasis in the desert of commercial pop. Refreshing, vibrant, and worth the journey if you can escape the mainstream mirage.
Hackathon drops Rise as one in the metalcore scene,
and the crowd goes wild, yet the lyrics still remain mysteriously indecipherable. In true metalcore fashion, the band screams about unity while no one can make out a single word. Maybe the real message is hidden in the decibels.
FTC lands $2.5 billion settlement against Amazon, but the trillion-dollar giant calls it just another Tuesday. Amazon's legal team probably spent more on coffee last month than this settlement. The real historic feat is finding a penalty that stings.
Korean chip makers gain $100 billion, yet still claim they're just getting started. When your chips are hotter than a summer sidewalk, even AI's thirst for silicon can't cool them down. Let's hope the supercycle doesn't spin into a supernova of tech hubris.
Elon Musk and Peter Thiel appear in Epstein documents and the plot thickens. When the tech titans are mingling in the muck, you start to wonder if innovation's real currency is a handshake in the shadows.
Don Wilson predicts asset tokenization in 5 years, but NFTs of his opinions remain unsold and unloved. When trading titans talk tokens, remember, digital smoke still smells like a pipe dream. Who's really buying this future?
Spotify adds 10,000 pirate-themed songs, calls it musical diversity. When your playlist sails into the sea of gimmicks, you know someone's cashing in on the nostalgia of sea shanties. Just wait until they discover mermaid rap.
When cybersecurity relies on crossed fingers, it's time to question if our digital fortresses are built on sand. Hope is not a firewall.
Wildlife NGO targets bird trapping in Cyprus, calling it feathered genocide. When bird nappers meet their match in an NGO with a conscience, it's a shame they didn't see the net of justice coming.
Wave CEO touts autonomous vehicles as the future, while most of us are still trying to figure out cruise control without panicking. When the car drives itself,
Social media post ignites communal violence in Gujarat, over 60 detained. When a few words online can torch a village, maybe it's time we rethink the power we hand to pixels. Who knew emojis could be the new Molotovs?
Police report multiple people shot at Mormon church, shooter down, and thoughts and prayers are already on back order. When faith meets firepower, the only miracle left is the ability to still be shocked. Maybe it's time to pray for a change in policy.
Colbert mocks Trump's escalator sabotage claim, investigates with a straight face. When a former president blames physics for his dissent, it might be time to check if reality's been sabotaged too. Escalators, the new deep state.
Kennedy Jr. promises autism study, blames environment, yet offers no data. It's a classic case of trust me, I'm guessing from a man whose science credentials are as solid as a house of cards in a hurricane.
Europe constructs drone wall with Ukrainian tech, but the only thing it's stopping is coherent foreign policy. When your defense strategy sounds like a sci-fi sequel, maybe it's time to question if the plot makes sense. A wall of drones won't fix a wall of denial.
Only 30% of Kimmel's jokes air uncensored, and Big Tech calls it moderation. When comedians need a permission slip from Silicon Valley to mock, Satire might as well be on life support, gasping through a content filter.
Prosecutors warned Trump attorney on Comey indictment, but Trump still chases vendetta like a dog with a bone. When your legal strategy involves ignoring warnings, maybe it's time to find a new bone, or a new lawyer. Retribution won't rewrite the law books.
Cuomo brands Mamdani's candidacy abhorrent, yet he lost the primary to him. When the pot calls the kettle black, it's just another day in the political kitchen where hypocrisy is the main course.
Pete Hegseth.
You to discuss drone war against Russia, but maybe they should start with a fence to keep their own drones in check. When Europe's airspace starts looking like a sci-fi war movie, it's time to question if the drones are the problem or the ones flying them.
Only 7% of world leaders appreciate good R&B, and their playlists remain a state secret. When politics is a circus, it's no wonder they can't find the beat. They're too busy marching to the drum of denial.
When denial becomes a business strategy, it's hard to tell if you're reading an industry report or a fairy tale.
UK government launches digital ID scheme, promises privacy but data breaches haunt.
Trump sends US troops to Portland, declaring full force over a peaceful protest. When your ego's as fragile as a soap bubble, every dissent looks like a revolution.
Volvo launches X60 with a battery that lasts 42 hours, claims it's a revolution. When the revolution is a longer lasting charge, maybe it's time we plug into a new kind of power play.
Only 80% of Imagine Dragons fans recognize lyrics and the band calls it success. When your deepest connection is a catchy chorus, maybe it's time to listen closer.
Only 20% of Bucharest commuters reached work on time in 1982, and the government called it efficient. When your train is slower than a tortoise on a lazy Sunday, maybe it's time to rethink the definition of progress.
Only 10% of metalcore lyrics are decipherable, and bands call it poetry.
Sinclair restores Jimmy Kimmel to ABC stations, ending blackout of his sharp tongue. Looks like Sinclair realized that suppressing late-night wit was worse than letting the truth slip out between punchlines.
Federal Reserve cuts rates again, stocks nosedive for third day. When even Wall Street can't find the silver lining in a rate cut, you know the economic script's gone rogue.
India's top court okays JSW's $2 billion Bhushan buy, then calls it justice. In the world of corporate monopoly, that is just free parking unless you're Bhushan, then it's more like jail time.
NATO vows to defend against Russia, yet claims no interest in escalation. It's like saying you're ready to fight with a bazooka, but Promise to keep it holstered until you don't.
USA military chiefs exclude Congress from meeting, yet call it transparent. Transparency, like stealth technology, works best when no one's looking or asking pesky questions about accountability.
Only 10% of meditation apps reduce stress, and developers call it a breakthrough. Turns out, your phone can calm you down right after it notifies you of 1,000 other things first.
Because nothing says effective governance like waiting until the last minute to save the country from a self-inflicted crisis.
Only 5% of art biennials feature police pups, yet the press calls it a cultural renaissance. Because nothing says high art like a poodle in uniform or a champion beard in the rain.
One armed student kills peer, injures another, calls it a lesson. In the cutthroat world of academia, some students take killer instinct a little too literally.
Charlie Kirk's rhetoric fuels anti-trans hate, as if bigotry needed another cheerleader. Because when your moral compass points to division, every hateful word becomes a weapon in the hands of the intolerant.
President Trump assumes DOJ investigates former FBI director, then wonders why everyone's surprised. It's like watching a magician reveal his own tricks, except the rabbit's still missing and the hat's on fire.
It's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, but with more medals and less lifeboats.
Only 10% of lyric videos break the noise, and MLE calls it a breakthrough. In a sea of auto-tune and algorithmic beats, finding a voice that resonates is like finding a needle in a haystack made of Spotify playlists.
As if color-coded closets and 10,000 steps a day can outwit the Grim Reaper's scythe.
Moldova's pro-European party wins election. EU membership still a mirage. Winning the election is like getting a passport photo. It doesn't guarantee you a trip to Europe, just a nice picture of hope.
U.S. economy surges by 4.8%, but wages remain stagnant. It's like celebrating a marathon win while the workers crawl to the finish line on empty stomachs.
Sandro Diaz breaks 2 world records with a 230-foot drop, defying gravity and good sense. When life gives you Red Bull, apparently you just dive off a cliff and call it progress.
Tuskegee Airman and WJF combat pilot dies at 100. History mourns a hero. He soared above prejudice to defend freedom, and now, a century later, the ground feels a little less brave without him.
Only 40% of parents delay retirement for kids' insurance, and lawmakers call it family values. In the land of the free, you're free to work forever, so your kids don't pay the price of getting sick.
After promising mild effects, Cosmic Rear delivers heavy doom rock, and you might just love the vibrations to death. When your music side effects include mild to moderate death, it's either a killer marketing ploy or a lawsuit waiting to happen. Either way, rock on.
When your foreign policy toolkit is a box of matches, don't act surprised when everyone starts smelling smoke.
Vermont towns embraced America First policies now face skyrocketing taxes. Turns out, when you vote for isolationism, the only thing you isolate is your wallet from its contents. Enjoy the solitude, folks.
Helena Moreno promises change, then dodges questions with the grace of a politician, moonwalking through a minefield. When your campaign strategy involves more sidestepping than a drunken line dance, you might just be ready for New Orleans politics.
California thieves ransack jewelry store, escape with $1 million in loot. When the smash and grab trend becomes a group activity, it's like a twisted team-building exercise for the criminally inclined. Who needs trust falls when you have crowbars? South Sudan court denies ex-VP's plea, murder, and treason trial proceeds. When your political career turns into a courtroom drama, the plot twist isn't a surprise, it's an inevitability. House arrest is the new office.
Yermak warns of high price after Belgorod power outages, then Russia asks if they contain rubles or just IOUs. When your international currency is as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake, maybe it's time to rethink your geopolitical strategies.
Prime Minister's Literary Awards grant $80,000 to Michel de Kretzer, proving words still pay better than most day jobs. In a world where politicians write fiction daily, it's refreshing to see a novelist rewarded for genuine creativity.
Only 6% of family dinners end in murder, and Lawrence Krauss calls his confession just another Tuesday. When your alibi involves a parking lot and a confession tape, maybe it's time to rethink your life choices, Lawrence.
Singapore executes Malaysian drug trafficker, the 11th death this year, while justice remains as blind as ever to mercy. In the city-state's relentless pursuit of a drug-free image, compassion is the only contraband that seems impossible to smuggle in.
When your album name feels like a manifesto, you know you're more than just a band, you're a revolution with a soundtrack.
Despite AI models outperforming radiologists since 2017, demand for human radiologists hits record highs because who trusts a robot with their insides? Apparently, humans still prefer a warm-blooded doctor to say, "Oops, that's not supposed to be there," rather than a glowing screen.
JCWOL releases GOMD video, blending hip-hop with antebellum aesthetics for a visual feast that defies easy categorization. JCWOL's artistic vision serves up a reminder, in a world full of chains, sometimes the heaviest ones are the invisible ones.
When the bar for progress is barely above the molten core of the earth, the only thing heating up is our collective sense of irony.
Donald Trump fears Jimmy Kimmel's comedy, proving laughter remains the last unregulated free speech. When your ego's as fragile as a soap bubble, a late-night punchline might feel like a sledgehammer.
Republican pleads guilty in child abuse videos case, used a Biden username for cover. When your moral compass is a fake ID, maybe it's time to rethink your party line and your life choices.
Anthony Albanese defies political demise forecast Hans Kierstarmer a lifeline wrapped in labor camaraderie. In a world where friendships are forged in political purgatory, hope is the ultimate currency, and these two are betting the farm.
Buccaneers kicker Chase McLaughlin kicks a 65-yard field goal, setting the longest outdoor field goal in NFL history because nature's his real MVP. Sure, Justin Tucker's got a 66-yarder, but that was indoors, where the wind's just a figment of imagination, not a gale force nemesis.
Raskin claims Comey faces slim chance of conviction, justice system shrugs. When your legal fate is as predictable as a Kardashian rerun, maybe accountability is just a bedtime story for grown-ups.
Afreximbank seeks arbitration against Zambia, claiming debt relief is a mirage. When loan sharks start haggling over the price of compassion, you know the financial system's moral compass is spinning like a broken record.
When belief in data is as shaky as a house of cards in a hurricane, you might as well ask a magic 8-ball for political insight.
Trump deploys national troops to stifle First Amendment because nothing says freedom like a military parade. It's the American dream. Speak your mind and get a front row seat to tanks rolling down Main Street. Who knew free speech came with a side of camouflage?
The Doors released Spanish Caravan as an art rock anthem, proving flamenco guitars can set the world on fire without a single lighter. When your caravan's got Morrison at the wheel, even the most psychedelic detours feel like a siesta in the eye of a hurricane.
AI actress Tilly Norwood faces backlash from Hollywood, while creators insist she's a tool, not a human replacement. When your co-star is a digital diva, it's hard not to wonder if your next gig will be a hologram of yourself.
Possible 2028 contenders flood early primary states, pretending it's not just a giant ego tour. Nothing says, "I'm for the people," like a cross-country campaign trail where the only thing they're running for is the next photo op.
Only 20% of post-hardcore fans admit they still listen to At the Drive-In, and the band calls it a cult following. When your audience is smaller than your hair gel budget, you know it's time to embrace the underground for real.
Trump's immigration police shoot British journalists, then claim it's just a routine part of freedom. Ah yes, nothing screams liberty like a flashbang making its home in your leg while documenting the land of the free.
Sony Financial debuts on Tokyo Stock Exchange, claiming independence while still under Sony's shadow. It's like moving out of your parents' basement but keeping the family name on your mailbox.
Trump plans talks with congressional leaders, then threatens mass firings if government shuts down, because nothing inspires cooperation like dangling the guillotine over the heads of those who didn't get you your morning coffee.
Trump's disapproval among Republicans hits double digits, as if realizing the emperor's wardrobe was always on backorder. When even your loyal choir starts questioning the hymn book, maybe it's time to check if the organ's out of tune or just out of touch.
Mayor Eric Adams ends re-election campaign citing personal reasons while Gotham eyes his political kryptonite. Looks like the Big Apple's latest superhero saga just lost its lead, leaving citizens to wonder if his cape was made of lead too.
Corn futures hit 1 week low, then market analysts call it a golden opportunity. Nothing says bumper crop like squeezing farmers for every kernel while Wall Street toasts their misfortune with corn syrup cocktails.
When the world's stage lights up with cries for justice, politicians fiddle with their scripts, hoping the audience doesn't notice the plot holes.
Terrence Chim posts, Zulo's better off alone, then internet trolls call it a revolutionary sound. In the digital age, all it takes is one synth drop for bedroom producers to be crowned the next Mozart by their moms and bots alike.
The IRS charges $3,000 after writing off $19,000 loan and calls it fair play. In the magical land of tax codes, a debt forgiven turns into a debt owed, proving that even in sobriety financial hangovers linger.
The fifth National Climate Assessment vanishes from official sites, reappears on a rogue URL, proving truth is the ultimate escape artist. When facts play hide and seek with authority, it's a reminder that reality doesn't need a government seal to be undeniable.
Stephen Colbert praises Jimmy Kimmel's emotional monologue, then reality TV stars claim intellectual property rights on free speech. When late-night hosts become the new founding fathers, you know the Constitution's been rewritten by a teleprompter.
Bond traders pin hopes on dovish Reserve Bank of India to revive market, while bulls remain asleep. When your market strategy relies on central banks whispering sweet nothings, it's clear you're betting on the power of wishful thinking over economic fundamentals.
When a tech giant's future is held together by wishful thinking, maybe it's time to swipe right on some new silicon soulmates.
Only 2% of rock fans have heard Cardiac's Wouldn't I, and the music industry calls it a hidden gem. When a band's masterpiece is buried deeper than your ex's mixtape, you know the charts are rigged for mediocrity.
Spider-Cat's database fails to connect again, but tech support insists it's a feature. When your database connection is as reliable as a politician's promise, maybe it's time to invest in a crystal ball instead.
Only 42% of climate models predict
In a world where dinosaurs would need sunscreen, it's always amusing when oil execs play paleoclimatologists.
Only 12% of SpiderCat users find news, and the tech overlords call it an achievement. When your database is emptier than a politician's promise, maybe it's time to upgrade from catnip to competence.
Only 12% of rock fans realize Velvet Down was AI generated, and the music industry calls it innovation. When your hottest new band is a software program, maybe it's time to admit that rock and roll has officially turned into soft rock and code.
Only 7% of listeners notice Versade's Secrets was AI generated, and the label calls it authentic. When your R&B anthem is crafted by algorithms, maybe the real secret is the industry's shameless embrace of synthetic soul over the human heart.
Washington State confirms remains of Travis Decker. When the past catches up with the present, even the most notorious fugitives find that running from accountability is just a cruel illusion.
AI shakes up white-collar jobs, so 53% of young Americans swap suits for steel-toed boots. When algorithms replace accountants, it's no surprise that the future's brightest are trading spreadsheets for socket wrenches. Who knew the real American dream was a hard hat?
After promising celestial innovation, 9 Opes in the Stars released, sounding like a recycled mixtape. When your cosmic journey feels like a trip around the block, it's clear the only stars involved were the ones phoned in.
When investment is a buzzword and fiscal rules are a mantra.
You might wonder if the real magic trick is making poverty disappear from the conversation.
Valve's Steam Deck sold millions, while Panic's Playdate remains gaming's secret, but only if you haven't heard of it. In a world obsessed with power and pixels, Playdate proves that obscurity is the ultimate boss battle, and it's winning by staying hidden.
Modi hands $845 million to women voters, then calls it empowerment. When cash is handed out like party favors before an election, empowerment starts to look a lot like a bribe wrapped in a sari.
Supreme Court upholds Trump's funding freeze, jeopardizing $40 billion in foreign aid. When compassion's frozen solid, it's hard to tell if the chill comes from the courtroom or the executive office.
New Zealand's bird election crowns a carnivorous outdoor champion, proving even in avian politics, it's eat or be eaten. In a feathery twist of fate, the top bird is a ruthless predator, making survival of the fittest the only campaign strategy that truly soars.
Justice Department investigates Georgia DA prosecuting Trump ban denies political motives. When the fox starts questioning the henhouse, you have to wonder if justice is just a game of who's got the bigger gavel.
After 3 decades,
Watching strangers get real feels about as genuine as a politician's campaign promises. Entertaining, but only if you suspend disbelief.
Ukraine starts exhumation in Poland, unearthing a suspected mass grave of World War II soldiers.
European ministers fast-track drone war discussions after Danish airport incursions as drones redefine airspace chaos. When your travel plans are thwarted by rogue drones, it's clear that the skies have become the latest playground for high-tech mischief makers.
Netanyahu faces diplomatic isolation at UN General Assembly as delegates walk out. When even the UN can't be bothered to listen, it's like a high school assembly where the principal's speech is drowned out by the sound of eyes rolling.
Trump warns Democrats of bad things if provoked, while spelling errors continue to plague his threats. When your ominous warnings come with typos, it's hard to tell if the chaos is intentional or just a really bad autocorrect.
Trump orders troops to deploy to war-ravaged Democrat-run cities, claims it's a necessary intervention.
U.S. junk bond issuance reaches $51 billion, yet they call it a thriving economy. When trash becomes treasure, Wall Street's alchemy turns financial refuse into golden opportunities for those who dare to gamble on America's debt addiction.
Boeing rejects union's proposed contract, then striking defense workers prove its viability. It's a classic case of who's the boss, where the workers show management that their demands weren't just sky high, but grounded in reality.
Hedge fund manager loiters outside Drake's mansion, hoping celebrity vibes will inflate a failing tech stock. Nothing screams financial desperation quite like trying to turn a rapper's aura into a stock market savior.
Police report 4 killed in Michigan church attack. Call it a tragic anomaly. In the land of the free, where faith is meant to be a sanctuary, violence barges in with a loaded agenda and a matchbook.
Vietnamese government declares typhoon manageable as it kills 11 and devastates infrastructure. When manageable means counting bodies and rebuilding homes, it's clear the only thing weather resistant is political spin.
The Cuban government promises revolution, delivers hunger and homelessness instead. When utopian dreams wither, the people are left holding empty bowls, sleeping under the stars. Revolutionary rhetoric can't fill an empty stomach or a vacant shelter.
Manhattan DA declines to prosecute NYC woman, cites public interest. In a city that never sleeps, justice takes a power nap when punching down becomes punching up on the moral high ground.
Placeboing launch is never gonna chop you up, calls it a pop-art revolution. When mashups get so meta they're practically eating themselves, you've got to wonder if anyone's left to dance or just dizzy.
California dentist jokes about hurting liberals, then wonders why Yelp reviews plummet.
Only 20% of global food is nutrient dense, and the UN calls it sustainable progress. When your dinner comes with a side of corporate greed and a sprinkle of climate denial, it's time to order a revolution instead.
Even superheroes need a timeout. Apparently, swinging between skyscrapers is all fun and games until you meet the unforgiving laws of gravity.
Labour proposes EU youth mobility scheme, claims it bridges Brexit divide. Because nothing says ambitious like exchanging bright-eyed graduates for a Brexit hangover, hoping they'll solve what decades of political dithering couldn't.
Russian diesel exports surge amid drone attacks, and Moscow calls it resilience. When your fuel supply has more drama than a soap opera, maybe it's time to change the channel on fossil fuels.
North Carolina businesses rebuild after Helene while profits remain elusive. Rebuilding after a storm is like piecing together a jigsaw with no edges. You're never sure if the picture will ever truly come together again.
Keir Starmer pledges emissions cut, then wavers on attending COP30 summit. When your climate promises are like a no-show at your own party, history might just RSVP with a collective eye roll.
Only 20% of health experts support BMI, yet the diet industry clings to it like a security blanket.
Because nothing screams the boss like revamping a classic into a rock and roll Frankenstein built from the bones of nostalgia and voltage.
UN's top court declares clean environment a right, but oil companies are still partying like it's 1999. It's like handing out umbrellas in a hurricane, meaningful intentions, but the floodwaters of corporate greed keep rising.
Poland's parliamentary speaker eyes un-refugee chief role, despite Poland's own refugee policy woes. Applying for a job that involves helping refugees while your country builds walls to keep them out is the ultimate in political cosplay.
Yes, Treasury's gold reserves hit $1 trillion, while minimum wage remains stuck in the past. It's like hoarding gold bars under your mattress while the neighbors starve. Glittering.
Lola Young collapses on stage at NYC Festival, assures fans she's doing okay now. When your body hits pause mid-performance, but your PR team hits play on damage control faster than a Spotify algorithm.
Only 20% of investors handle market dips, and Bespoke Investment Group calls it a reality check. When the roller coaster of capitalism leaves you queasy, it's time to question who's steering this ride and why they never hit the brakes.
When the fox guards the henhouse, it's no wonder feathers fly and peace becomes a distant mirage.
Bundy fires third Miami. Federal prosecutor over anti-Trump posts. Claims impartiality. Concerns. When your job security depends more on your Twitter history than your courtroom victories, welcome to the era of social media witch hunts.
Theta Citadel Management seeks $200 million for blockchain fund, hoping to strike gold in a subdued market. When the crypto well's running dry, it's a bold move to dig deeper. But hey, someone's got to bet on digital dreams.
Algeria issues $2.3 billion in bonds, calling it a financial miracle. When your oil-rich ship springs a leak, slap a band-aid of Islamic bonds on it and hope the market gods don't laugh too hard.
Australian PM downplays aid ship risks to Gaza, claims it's a diplomatic gesture. When humanitarian efforts are treated like a game of political chicken, it's the people on deck who pay the price of posturing.
Reds overtake Mets for third NL wildcard spot by beating Brewers 3-1, leaving Mets fans clutching their peanuts and Cracker Jacks. It's like watching a telenovela where the underdog suddenly steals the spotlight, and the Mets are left wondering if they missed a plot twist.
NFL execs hype Cowboys' Micah Parsons trade as if it's a championship game. When teams trade players like chess pieces, it's the fans left playing checkers with their dashed dreams and empty wallets.
Laurent Garnier and Mix Master Duty drop acid house vibes in '91, proving music's power to transcend time and trends. When your beats are hotter than a politician's promise, who needs a time machine? Just groove back to when music was pure rebellion.
Trump tariff announcement wipes $1 billion from CSL value, and he calls it a win for America. It's like setting your house on fire to roast marshmallows, while Australian biotech companies watch their profits go up in smoke.
Reddit user claims L. Croc's OG explicit version is groundbreaking, but it's just another remix of recycled beats. Like a wannabe Picasso painting by numbers, this track tries hard to be edgy but ends up as a musical deja vu.
When freedom means crushing healthcare heroes, maybe it's time to rethink the land of the free and the brave.
Microsoft cuts Israeli military's access to cloud computing, claims it's about terms of service. When even big tech grows a conscience, you know things are dire. Maybe next they'll teach ethics to their AI.
SpiderCat database searches for truth, finds void, claims it's a feature. In the age of information overload, even the algorithms need a vacation from the relentless barrage of nonsense.
SpiderCat database loses its grip on reality, calls it a connectivity issue. When your tech's as reliable as a paper umbrella in a hurricane, maybe it's time to invest in something sturdier than a digital house of cards.
Planetary Health Check warns of ocean acidification as industrial progress leaves a bitter aftertaste. Turns out that when you treat the planet like a chemistry set, you get a science experiment with no safety goggles, just billions of us blinking in disbelief.
Erdogan announces reforms, then reverts to autocracy. Turkey's political dance is a shat-show of promises and power grabs. Watch out for the next spin. It's always dizzying.
Trump demands Microsoft dismiss lawyer who probed the 2020 election fiasco, doubling down on his love for accountability's kryptonite. Pam Bondi's got a new hobby, turning ICE facilities into fortresses of freedom where the real heroes are the ones who can dodge accountability and due process faster than a speeding bullet.
Trump crushes generals gathering, turning military decorum into a circus, with a security nightmare as the surprise main act. When your commander-in-chief treats the armed forces like an open mic night, expect the punchlines to come with a side of panic and a dash of chaos.
Political intrigue down under, where loyalty is as stable as a kangaroo on a trampoline. Let's see who bounces highest.
Eric Adams quits NYC mayoral race, leaving a political vacuum and a city wondering if anyone wants the keys to this chaos. When the Big Apple's leadership feels more like a game of hot potato, you know New York's real estate isn't the only thing in freefall.
Alabama Sentencing Commission predicts prison population may swell by 33% by 2030 thanks to fresh legislative genius. Apparently, the Alabama legislature thinks overcrowding is just another word for progress because nothing says justice like turning incarceration into the latest growth industry.
Trump enlists ex-legal team for vengeance, proving that loyalty in his orbit is as cheap as a Mar-a-Lago buffet. When your legal defense turns into an attack dog, the courtroom starts to resemble a reality show reunion, complete with backstabbing and bad hair.
Asian stocks tumble as Wall Street stalls despite rally. The stock market's like your ex. Just when you think it's stable, it pulls a disappearing act. Guess we're all in for a roller coaster romance with our portfolios.
Trump plans to meet congressional leaders in a final scramble to dodge a government shutdown, because brinkmanship is the new diplomacy. In a plot twist worthy of a reality show, the art of the deal now involves hoping the government doesn't run out of gas.
Trump slashes public media funding. New Jersey PBS fades to black, serving static instead of Sesame Street. As the airwaves go silent, Elmo's left jobless and the only Big Bird still seen is on Twitter.
Only 10% of Chicagoans can afford rent, and landlords call it market freedom. In the city where Sweet Home is just a song, housing is a blues riff on repeat, playing to the tune of Empty Wallets.
Only 15% of folk songs reach mainstream ears, and Tryfon Grebenskoy's Russian ballad rides into the sunset of obscurity. While the Kazakh gallops into the distance, Spotify algorithms play the same pop hit on repeat, drowning out the soulful strum of tradition.
OPEC slice hints at November production hike. Oil prices drop. It's like they're playing Jenga with the global economy, pulling out blocks and hoping the whole thing doesn't crash. Spoiler, it usually does.
Spotify streams Bleep You by Lily Allen in a million earbuds, while the title politely asks you to fill in the blanks. In a world of censorship and curated playlists,
Lily Allen's cheeky defiance reminds us that sometimes a well-placed bleep says it all.
NATO scrambles Hungarian jets to intercept Russian aircraft, calling it routine diplomacy. When diplomacy means playing tag with fighter jets over the Baltic, it's less about peace and more about flexing wings and egos.
Trump urges pregnant women to tough it out with Tylenol, echoing outdated misconceptions.
Only 20% of cancer research projects receive adequate funding, and the industry calls it innovation. When life-saving science is left begging for change, maybe it's time to question who's really profiting from the cure.
Labor promises maintenance grants for priority courses, but only for some students. Because nothing says equal opportunity like deciding which streams are worthy of funding and which are left to fend for themselves.
Microsoft flags AI-driven phishing attacks using SVG files, claiming they're outsmarting email security. Just when you thought your inbox was safe, Microsoft's here to remind you that AI's got more tricks up its digital sleeve than Houdini on a caffeine high.
ICE detains Des Moines School superintendent for unknown reasons, then claims it's about border security. When educators become targets, you gotta ask, is teaching the truth now a threat to national security?
ICE detains children without clean water or sleep. Watchdogs claim prolonged suffering. When did family values start including sleep deprivation and thirst? Maybe ICE is just preparing these kids for a dystopian reality show no one asked for.
When your America First policy leaves global health gasping for air, maybe it's time to check the patient before prescribing more chaos.
Gulp Rep arrested for child porn claims moral high ground still intact. When your family values platform crumbles under the weight of hypocrisy, maybe it's time to redefine what conservative truly conserves.